Saturday, mate. Some days I prefer staying safe. Next Friday I will still feel great. I don't care if Monday's bright. Tuesday, Wednesday are alright. Thursday, maybe an early night. It's Friday, I stay home. Monday will my plans begin. Tuesday, Wednesday I may sleep in. Oh, Thursday, learning violin. It's Friday, I stay home. Saturday, late. And some days I prefer staying safe. Next Friday I will still feel great. Dressed up to the eyes, you don't want no surprise. Spreading the virus will make stars rise. Going up your town and just smiling at the sound. The upcast stuff setting lights around. Always making it right, it's such a gorgeous sight. To see you safe in the middle of the night. Should wear every crown, respect the lockdown. It's Friday, I stay home. I don't care of Monday's task. Tuesday, Wednesday I wear a mask. Thursday, there's no need to ask. It's Friday, I stay home. Monday you can wash your hands. Tuesday, Wednesday use Purell. Oh, Thursday never touch your head. It's Friday, I'm in gloves.
Where are my girls? I am looking for her. Yes, there she is. And where's Izzy?
Hi.
Hi, dear.
Yay.
Oh, good morning.
I think
Good
we're live.
morning.
Good morning. How are you, Shannon?
I am good. I'm on the West Coast. It's bright and early. I got my coffee. I'm excited.
I'm
You are
pumped.
color matching. We're color matching. It looks nice.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, matching
Yes.
colors.
I
My
love it.
co-host for the eastern part of the U.S. And to be quite honest,
We can't hear you. Oh, there we go. I think you're good.
I
Not
can. I'm
Oh.
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
there can be a little bit of slack. So I have to talk slow. Okay. Are you ready to host the eastern part of the U.S. and talk
Yes.
about actually the stuff that you both know much more about than I do? Because my Isabella that's a little miracle in my life. I had the pleasure of hosting you for, how long did you stay with us, Isabella? A month?
I was there for a while.
Wow.
You didn't get sick of me, or maybe you did. You were very polite about it.
Oh, well, I did feel a little bit like your moms, and moms sometimes they are annoyed about certain things, but yeah, I love you to death. And I'm so happy that we are now back together as a sort of KET team. And I'm also happy that the bright, always shining girl that I first saw on LinkedIn doing all of these amazing talks, Shannon. And then luckily you were one of those happy people I met at CMS when Alex was organizing something good, and I read your book, so I thought, well, she knows everything, so who better to host together with Isabella this part of the US? And thank you for being on so early, of course. And have you looked a little bit at the program?
Yeah,
that's
I've
here.
got it up. Yeah.
I have your email out, and I also have the website out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right now we have done a piece of Europe. We've done Sandia, and we had a nice conversation, which was really fast with Sonali. And I am now totally updated about everything that's going on in Asia, how many people there live,
Everything.
how big it is. 65% of the world is actually going to be eating meat there. So we desperately need cultivated meat there. And one of the things, and Isabella knows this, if we organize KET, people always think, why are you not doing panels? And today I just understood why we don't. It is so nice to listen to all of these individuals telling stories or their tech or their passion or their future motives. And it is like what we're now doing, this amazing event of 11 hours, which is in itself absolutely crazy. And the tech people here, they are going crazy. They're really like, this is not fun. Every something else, getting somebody in, making sure that the videos are on top. And they are doing such an amazing job. And I don't know what we've done without them. And but every 10 minutes there's a new topic, and somebody is telling us what they're doing. And we had a little bit of a break before we went to you with a lot of visuals from all over. And we have an amazing chat going on, and we thought it would be about 10 minutes. But the guy is still going on, and that is actually about vegan and being a marketer in vegan, but also now in food tech. And what is your first thing that you have to start introducing?
We have $1 Billion Burger Read by Chase Purdy.
Yeah. Well, I actually also had Chase stay in my house, and we had a good time. And it was actually very much in the beginning of this voyage that I'm in on now. And I'm going to ask the tech guys to plug him in, and then I think we should take off in the US now.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
And the floor is yours, and I'm out.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Bye. Awesome. I think we are getting started. I'm Isabella. I'll be one of the hosts today. I'm from Canada. I'm from Toronto. And previously I worked on KET in Amsterdam, and I'm a board member for Aleph Farms, part of their Gen Z board.
Hello, I'm Shannon Theobald. I'm joining you from San Francisco, and I'm just so glad to be here. I'm the author of Printing Your Dinner, which is about biotech and food, the host of Big Food, Big Future podcast about making food better on a large scale, and also a strategic consultant in the future food space. And I'm just a longtime fan of all things KET, so really glad to be here today. And first up, we've got a really exciting new book for you, $1 Billion Burger by Chase Purdy. It's inside Big Tech's race for the future of food. So I think you'll really enjoy it.
My name is Chase Purdy. I am a writer based in New York City and the author of a new book on cell-cultured meat called $1 Billion Burger, Big Tech's Race for the Future of Food. It came out this past June, and it's a project I was working on for a little under 2 years. It focused a little bit, in fact, on Ayla Jackson and her family, as her family has obviously played a big role in the development of cell-cultured meat technology across the years. Her father being regarded as the godfather of this technology in many respects. Like a lot of people, I've been cloistered in my apartment for a good bit because of the coronavirus, but it was still an honor to be asked to read a little bit from this book for you for the conference that you're at. So I chose a section from chapter 3, which is called The Molecular Miracle. And the reason why I'm choosing this is kind of in part because really akin to why I kind of embarked on writing this book in the first place, which is cell-cultured meat is super interesting. It promises sort of an optimistic path and a tool to tackle the issues of climate change. But one of the biggest problems right now for cell-cultured meat is that people who are interested in it, who aren't scientists, don't have a lot of language that's necessary to talk about it. Regular everyday people need the language to think about cultured meat, to talk about cultured meat, to ask questions about cultured meat. And so my hope was to boil down a lot of the complex science into very simple terms to give people a very basic working level knowledge of how this works. So to not waste any more of your time, I'll start reading from this. I won't read the whole chapter, but just a little bit of it. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy it. So again, chapter 3, The Molecular Miracle. This optimistic band of new food technology startups has made so much progress that in just 3 years, the cost of producing some types of cell-cultured meat has drastically fallen. It took 3 lab technicians about 3 months to grow the 20,000 muscle fibers in Mark Post's $330,000 burger. A pound of that beef would have cost about $1.2 million if sold in a conventional grocery store. By March 2017, though, one of the startups, Memphis Meat, told the Wall Street Journal that it had gotten the price of cell-cultured chicken down to $9,000 per pound. Still a humongous expense, but an exponential drop in price over the course of just a few years. In September 2018, at a food technology conference in Berkeley, California, the CEO of Memphis Meats announced the price had dropped again, this time to below $1,000 per pound. In early 2019, the Israel-based company Aleph Farms told news crews that it had gotten its beef down to $100 per pound. In October 2019, Josh Tetrick, the CEO of Just, said his pure cell-cultured chicken nuggets cost about $50 per nugget. The same month, Israel-based Future Meat Technologies said it was on track to have cell-cultured meat on the market in 2022 for about $10 per pound. What makes cell-cultured meat such a costly venture? The brain power it takes to push it into fruition and its ingredients. At its simplest level, the recipe requires 3 things: cells, of course, a nutrient-dense liquid medium to feed the cells, and a sterile bioreactor that provides the right conditions to grow them. The concept of culturing cells is pretty straightforward. By introducing a single cell to the right set of circumstances, it will naturally divide and duplicate many, many times. Once those cells multiply enough times, they organize themselves into a visible mass called tissue. Most of the meat we eat is primarily muscle tissue, which is about 75% water, 20% protein, 5% fat, with trace amounts of carbohydrates. A whole mysterious world is swirling around within the cells themselves, each programmed by twisted strands of genetic code that can direct a single cell to respond to its environment, manufacture proteins, create energy, build skin, bone, and muscle, and make antibodies to protect itself from outside invaders, among many other things. So how do the scientists at Just and other companies get these cells? It's actually pretty simple. You can collect them by performing a harmless biopsy on a live animal. You can get them by harvesting tissue from the ovaries of a newly slaughtered animal, a good place to find young and strong cells. Some scientists have even said you can get them from the packages of meat found at any common grocery store, though that isn't commonly done, and scientists debate how viable those cells would even be. The scientists at cell-cultured meat companies identify which cells are stem cells. Whereas ordinary cells have limited utility, stem cells can divide and multiply many times, and they can transform into any of the more than 200 types of cells that operate within animal bodies. Think of our cells as individuals on a building construction site. Some are assigned to lay cement, some are trained as carpenters, and another might be an electrician. Together, they work harmoniously to build different components of the larger structure. But it is possible to pluck a cement worker from her job, send her to classes where she'll learn about wiring, plugs, and sockets, and then she can be sent back into the field as a newly trained electrician. The same thing can happen on a molecular level. For instance, the scientists at Just say that they can manipulate certain cells they collect from the pointy tip of a chicken's feather to divide and multiply not just into feather tissue, but also potentially into muscle or fat tissue. To do so, they subject the cells to a process called dedifferentiation, in which scientists can take a cell that would normally live its life as a feather producer, tell it to stop working on feathers, and then revert it back into an earlier stage cell. It's kind of like sending a cell into a time machine, pushing it backward through its development and into what is called a pluripotent state. At this point, our one-time feather cell can be directed into choosing a new life adventure. Convincing it to take on a new, more specialized job as a muscle or fat cell, for example, is called differentiation, the process by which a cell acquires the traits and tools it needs to perform a new set of functions. So that's like a really simple explanation of the scientific process, obviously very simple, but I think that whenever you are communicating to a broad audience about how this works, and everyone everywhere who's interested in ever buying a package of cultured meat will have these questions around how exactly is this made, it's going to be important to be able to give very simple, very straightforward sort of metaphors and sort of visual scenes for how to understand how it works, not only so that they can feel more comfortable with the actual process, but so that whenever they go to dinner with other people and they talk about this new cool thing, that they'll have the language themselves to actually be able to talk about this in a way that's helpful for other people to understand. And that was sort of the chief goal behind this book, to give people sort of that base vocabulary to talk about this neat technology. Anyways, thank you all so much for your time. Thank you to Ira for inviting me to speak. I wish that I could do this in person and not through video, but it was still a pleasure nonetheless. If you're interested, again, the book is called $1 Billion Burger, Big Tech's Race for the Future of Food. My name is Chase Purdy, and yeah, I hope you all have a great, a wonderful time listening to other presentations. Thanks so much.
All right, and we're back. That was so wonderful. Thank you, Chase. And next up, we have Darko, who I've had the pleasure of connecting with for a while now. I met you back when you were in Europe. Now you're in the Bay, and we haven't gotten to get together yet because of COVID craziness, but I will see you. Darko is the founder of Melly Bio, which is honey without the bees. And I'm so excited for you to learn more about that.
Hi, Shannon. Hi, Isabella. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yep, all good.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the amazing opportunity to be here today to talk about one important animal product and one important animal that we really need to take care about. I really love the name of this conference because I find the perfect alignment of Earth being in the center, and everything should be um, evolving around Earth because that's the only planet that we have so far to live in, and that we really need to protect. I also love to see words kind and tech because I believe that kind is the value that all the businesses should be evolving around, and technology is going to help us how to bring the innovation and how to change uh, important habits of the humankind. Eating is something that we've been doing since we exist, and at the current level of development, eating is something that can either help us shape this planet to be a better and kind place for everyone, or unfortunately can lead us to destruction. What I would love to share with you today is story about important animals, about bees, and important product that was only coming from them until recently, when the technology also played an important role in how to make this product without animals. So I'll start with the bees. Everyone knows that there's a problem happening with bees, that bees are dying. But the true story about what's actually going on with the bees is more complex than what the audience is familiar with. So there are 20,000 bee species all around the world, and only 7 to 11 are actually honeybee species and subspecies that are producing the honey. So outside of them, there are almost 20,000 other bee species that are wild, native bee species, bumblebees, and they're basically solitary bees. They either live in smaller groups or they live by themselves. And those bees are really the ones that are jeopardized. Honeybees will never go extinct because there are beekeepers who can multiply their beehives. So honeybees will always be present on this planet as long as there are humans. The other bees that are dying and that we won't be able to revive them again if we lose them are the wild and native bee species. And one of the main reasons why those bee species are dying is actually the honey production itself. Honey is, I'd say, amazing product. There's a story about finding honey in Egyptian pyramids. It was thousands of years old, but it was still good to eat, thanks to its amazing and complex composition that make this sugary product beyond a sweetener, that makes it a superior ingredient with anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and other amazing benefits. So as humankind was getting familiar with honey, the rising demand for this product actually made a pressure for the commercial beekeeping to expand and produce more honey. So with the expansion of commercial beekeeping, what happened is that the new beehives were introduced to places where they have not been found before, and those new honeybees were taking the territory for wild and native bee species. They were pushing them back. They were behaving aggressive and territorial. That led to a huge decline of wild and native bee species. And it's really important to know, I really would like to emphasize that once a species is lost, we cannot revive them again. So we realized that the honey industry and the rising demand for honey and commercial beekeeping as the sole way how to produce honey so far is actually damaging the bees and making this product unsustainable. My co-founder Aaron Scheller and I started looking into this issue since both of us share the same passion towards the bees. My co-founder has a beautiful garden in Berkeley, California, where he gets to see all kinds of bees, honeybees, native bees, bumblebees, visiting beautiful flowers. Myself, I have a background actually coming from the European honey industry, where I spent 8 years. I joined this industry on premises of helping to have more bees out there, because for me at that time, it was logical to be part of the industry that is helping bees to expand and have them more. But realizing recently, a year ago, that actually the industry where I've been part of is actually not the industry that is part of the solution anymore, and that it needs to change, I immediately realized that the experience that I had through this industry was allowed me to think of it through another lens and help finding solution how to make this industry sustainable, and also how to make amazing product that's honey available in vegan option for the growing vegan and plant-based population. So we were really excited about looking into ways how to produce real honey without bees. And I'm emphasizing real because unfortunately, a lot of honeys in the market are actually not 100% real. They're blended with different kind of sugars and water, and customers are not sure if they're buying real honey when they buy it in stores. If you buy honey in farmers market, there's a greater chance that you'll buy real honey, but the issue that you can find with sourcing honey there is that actually honeybees, they can fly to different orchards that are sprayed, and they can pick up toxic adulterants. And beekeeper can be an honest person, but not familiar with what bees picked up with the surrounding that they visited, and you can basically consume honey that has toxic adulterants inside. So looking into all of these issues, we realized that producing real honey without bees in a controlled environment, what we can do is we can set the honeybees free from their labor. We can also reduce the pressure of commercial beekeeping and honeybees on wild and native bee species. We can produce the same honey on a molecular level like bee-made honey, and we can make sure that it's toxic adulterant free, and that it's safe for consumption, even for infants, which you cannot say that for bee-made honey because there's a special bacteria in honey that is negatively affecting the infant's gut. So honey is not advised to be consumed before the age of 2. So having all of these problems and knowing all of these problems in the honey industry, we realized that if we really try hard and if we use the latest advancements of synthetic biology, biofermentation, and plant science, that we can actually produce real honey without bees. And I'm proud to say that my co-founder Aaron Scheller and I made our first prototypes recently that are really close to real honey. We did some blind tastings, and a lot of people weren't able to recognize that this honey is not made out of bees. We really look forward to advancing our technology and making it optimized for scaling. And we really hope that with the seed round that we are approaching, that we would be able to find strategic investors that really understand and care about wild and native bee species, because saving them is not only for them, it's for us. It's for saving the planet that we want to have, the kind planet that's sustainable and that is welcoming everyone and providing beautiful nature and food to the humankind and being kind to the animals that are sharing this planet with us. I'm really excited to talk to anyone who is interested to know more about this. And once again, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to share our mission and present Melly Bio from Berkeley, California. Thank you so much.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Hello. Actually, I couldn't visit your session, your talk, but I was I had looked about it on LinkedIn and everything, so it felt a unique concept. But I don't understand, like, how do you exactly create it? Like, is it cell based or something? Like,
Um, what we are doing is we are making the same honey on a molecular level, and our technology is based on the intersection of biology and plant science. So it's not like making cell-based meat. It's different. It's special because honey is a special product, but we definitely are excited about all the technologies are being developed for all animal products. So we definitely think that we need all the animal products that humankind consumes produced without animals, and to be really real, to have the real taste, to have the benefits what people expect from these products. So we are the ones making real honey without bees.
like I understood like fermentation, but for meat, they take the specific meat cell. So for honey, like I just looked upon, there was another session where they used mammalian cells to create breast milk. So what for honey, for bees, what to exactly do?
We use a starting solution because what bees do, they collect nectar, which is basically sucrose, and they convert that nectar into honey. We are also starting with a starting solution that instead of having bees to convert them into fructose and glucose, we have a technology that's doing that.
So you have the specific enzymes or the specific
compounds? we found specific microorganism that is we believe very efficient for that process. And basically what we are doing, we are replicating the environment, which is basically in bees honey stomach. We replicate that environment in biofermentation.
But in some cases, it also depends upon the flowers and everything. It depends from region from region.
Yes, definitely. The power of honey, especially monoflora honey, comes from different flowers, and we've understood what is the composition of these amazing honeys, so we will be able to replicate them as well. At the beginning, what we are doing is we are making initially honey. We are not saying that it is clover honey or manuka honey. We are just making honey. But down the road, we will definitely look into a way how to produce any type of honey that we need, because we understand that different regions, industries, and companies prefer different honey types. We are very early stage. What we are
now it's just mass produced. Mass produce a basic. You mass produce a basic version or component.
Yeah.
Okay.
What makes you excited about honey and bees? Are you a scientist? Are you becoming a scientist?
No, I'm currently an undergrad student. So now
where are you
I'm
calling
studying
from?
food technology from India.
Wow. Which city in India?
Mumbai.
Wow. I'd love to visit India. I've never been, but I would love to do that. And I hope I'll have a couple of weeks of vacation to do that. I have many friends in India. I don't know if you heard about company Evo Foods. They make plant-based eggs in India. They're
based in Mumbai.
Yeah, they're my friends, and I love what they're doing, and I would also love to visit them. Shraddha and Kartik, they're amazing people. Maybe it's worth for you to connect with them.
But so you will be, so in the future there'll be an opportunity like for artisanally produce, like for each specific region.
For artisanal honeys.
Artisanal region specific, you can. So you are going towards that side,
right? We know artisanal honeys of specific regions, and yeah, we definitely want to have some of those to be produced. Definitely the highest quality honey, one of the highest quality honey, and one of the best presented honey in the world is Manuka honey, coming from New Zealand and Australia. So definitely we'll be looking into that honey. We also appreciate the buckwheat honey, mostly coming from Ukraine. We also appreciate with some specialty honeys from southern and western France and Italy, and also Southeast Europe, where I'm originally coming from. So we definitely understand those honey types and what makes them and what aromas, flavors, and benefits they bring. And we eventually want to have a library of honeys that we can really tweak and customize so that our clients would be able to get the best solutions for sweetening their food products, their personal care products, cosmetics, or pharma products.
Could I know, like, what was your background? Were you in the bee industry, that particular, or?
My education is in business. I went to business school. I'm coming from Serbia, Southeast Europe, and I worked for 8 years in the European honey industry. So I was not in commercial beekeeping as the first step of the chain. I was in the honey industry, working for companies that collect honey from beekeepers, homogenize them with special recipes, and I was selling that honey either as an ingredient in bulk, 300 kilo drums, or selling that as a retail brand, private label brand, and direct to consumer as well. So I have the experience from the entire range of the business side of the honey industry, and I'm happy because that gives me an opportunity to really, as someone who's coming from the industry and understands the specifics, that I can really influence how the future of honey industry that is kinder and more sustainable looks like.
Like Europe has this lot of innovation. Like when you speak for India, like currently you're seeing, like as you spoke about Karthik, like currently this entrepreneurship, this awareness about this alternative sources of food are coming up, but previously it was all the same. Everybody had a say. Everybody, like what do you call this? Not able to. Like they won't shift. They want to stick the same staple food. They won't shift to something new, something novelty like food. So
you know, I need to be totally honest with you, saying that I started this startup together with my co-founder in California for a reason, and I moved from Southeastern Europe to California because I realized that there are specific regions in the world where some innovation are more understood and more supported. I definitely think that all the regions, and specifically Europe, is catching up. But for me, it was a no-brainer to start up and go to US, specifically California, specifically San Francisco Bay Area, where you don't have any, let's say, crazy idea that you wouldn't be supported in pursuing, while maybe in some regions you need more energy and efforts to explain what you are doing. I wanted to focus on actually the work and building the technology rather than explaining stuff. So that was the reason why I moved to California, and I'm happy to be a Californian now and working on a startup in San Francisco Bay Area, which I find really progressive and forward thinking.
But if you look at Europe, I think Netherlands is also a huge part. Like there's a lot of innovation going on.
I love Netherlands. The Wageningen is becoming the new Silicon Valley of the food industry in Europe. I've been to Netherlands 5 or 6 times. People think differently there. They're supporting innovation. I would say Netherlands is almost perfect, and not perfect because it's a little bit cold there and sometimes rainy. And I'm not a fan of that weather. So for me, it's not totally perfect. But in terms of the business environment and incubating ideas and having support from academia, investors, it's great. I met an investor from Netherlands. He is an active angel investor there. There's a couple of them actually, and I think that's a great environment to think about your startup. If you can survive the cold weather, and if you don't mind the rain, I think you have all these other things that you can find in California as well.
I was actually thinking not about startups. I was thinking of after I complete my bachelor's, I was thinking of doing my master's or postgraduate courses or in wagoning.
Wow.
So
wow. Yeah, good luck in pursuing that. If you're really excited, you should go for it. Definitely, I believe that the future of technology in general, we've built all these apps. We've been through, coming up with the internet, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So I definitely think that the advancements of technology will be looking other industries to deploy, and definitely food industry is the perfect industry for technology to be utilized as a driver of a change to a sustainable living.
Because even when I noticed, like when I was surfing the net, most of these companies, most of these startups, most of them are either from the Netherlands or that kind of region. So there's a huge support from the university as well as from the regulatory authorities as well, right?
Can you hear me?
So yes,
yeah.
Can you hear
Yeah, my connection is unstable a little bit. Yeah, sure, definitely. Netherlands is a great place, as I mentioned. Definitely, I see Netherlands as a driver of the innovation in the European Union. And living in the Netherlands, you are really positioned well to go to Brussels, it's close, Paris, and definitely if you really want to pursue career and facilitate the change, you should definitely go to go there and check it out. It was great meeting you. Thank you for calling all the way from India. Greetings to Mumbai, and please make sure to connect with me either on Twitter or LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to know how is your progress going with your career and studies, and good luck with the Wageningen University.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Marta. My connection is back now. If you want to join to repeat your question, I'd be happy to respond. Okay, I see it. We understand that power of honey comes from two different things. One is the amazing taste, and the second thing is definitely all those benefits that come with honey. So we are not stopping with our technology development until we get to the point where we have the parity with bee-made honey. That's the big goal number one. Definitely the big goal number two is to see how is possible to tweak the composition of honey to maintain the great taste and maybe improve it in terms of enhancing the great ingredients and potentially reducing the amount of sugar in honey. We know that honey is a sugary product, but we also know that honey is the superior sweetener. It comes with benefits that you cannot find in other products. But understanding and working on our technology, we will definitely look into maybe ways how to produce it with potentially less sugar. But that's not our main goal at this point. Yeah, it's definitely honey is mostly fructose and glucose and water, and then other compressed ingredients. But also that fructose and glucose, they have different glycemic index. You don't have the spikes like with white sugar or high fructose corn syrup. The energy levels keep you up for a longer time, and the digestion is much better than with other sugars. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I think what you guys are doing is awesome. We are looking to onboard our future customers. So definitely, please stay in touch. I would love to be able to understand what kind of vegan sweets are you making, and we would definitely like to sign you up for having this honey among first customers, for you to test how it behaves in the cooking process, and eventually to become our customer when you are satisfied with our technical properties. I'll leave you my email here for you, so please don't be shy. Reach out, and I'll make sure to set up a special call and to see how can we help you. Thank you so much, Mara. Thank you for the questions, and it was great meeting you. Have an awesome the rest of the event. Thank you. We started designing the technology in the end of 2019, and currently we are in the process. We produced prototypes. We had close to 20 iterations in terms of prototype production, and we are looking for our first products to be in the market in Q3 next year. Definitely the first products won't be as perfect as some that will be coming after the first product, but we are excited for the launch end of next year. We already have 15 companies that signed letters of intent to purchase our products. Once we launch them, those will be the first companies to get honey without bees. So I'm really excited about that. The competitive landscape looks like the following. We are, as we know, we are the only company working on producing real honey without bees. We've seen brands and companies producing honey alternatives, meaning making something that looks like honey in terms of the looks and the taste benefits. You cannot mimic that with other things. We've recognized those, but we were not satisfied with not having the same molecular level as honey and not having the same taste and benefits. In terms of the company working on producing real honey without bees, we haven't seen one, but we definitely anticipate competition because we believe that removing the bees from the food supply chain is an urgent issue for the planet. So I'm definitely seeing another company or more companies working on the same or the similar issues would be really great for the planet and for the bees. We are not stopping in perfecting our technology until we get there. We definitely know that that's the real secret of the honey. It's a hidden jewel of how amazing that product is. So we are definitely looking for all these benefits that will be found in our honey and matched with bee-made honey. Even with our prototypes now, we can really show that we have the compounds that are providing those benefits. Definitely, it will take some time to get 100% matching, but when we get there, we won't stop. We'll be looking into enhancing honey, into amplifying the compounds that make honey great. So definitely, that's the beauty of technology. We take out the animals, we make the process efficient, and then we look into ways how to tweak our favorite products and make them even better in terms of the taste and in terms of the beneficial properties. I can share with you that in terms of scalability, we are working with one of the most renowned biofermentation experts. His name is Mark Warner. He is a person very knowledgeable of biofermentation scale-up. So we are working with him. I cannot share much on this call because it's a public session, but what I can do is I can definitely find time and get on a call with you and address all of the questions that you have. I can leave my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out and we can talk about all these details that you would care knowing. Here's my email. I'm really excited about getting to know you and what excites you about honey and the bees, and definitely happy to share more about our plans in terms of the go-to-market strategy and science, definitely. please feel free to reach out, and thank you for these questions in the chat. Hi, David. Good to see you in the session. Happy to address any of your questions. Feel free to join by video or audio, or you can type your question in the chat. Jakub, great to see you. Welcome to the session. Feel free to send your question in the chat or join in with video and audio. Consistency is actually the same. That's a great question. Hi, David. Just to finish quick, this reply to Viba from the chat. We already achieved parity on consistency. If you would go to my LinkedIn profile, Darko Mandich, I featured a video there showing how we prototype, and you'd be able to see the consistency. It's practically the same as bee-made honey. David, great to meet you. Thanks for stepping in. I'd love to learn more about you and answer to your questions.
Hey, Darko, it's also great to see you. I've been following your company a little bit from a scientific and innovation point of view. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Would you be able, and I missed your presentation, would you be able to just share the elevator on what's wrong with the current conventional bee production system, and why we need an alternative solution to what our tiny, stingy yellow and black friends are doing for us today? Just because I'm an outsider to that particular industry, so I'd be super excited to hear from you. Thank you, Darko.
Thanks for the question, David. If you don't mind, I would rather take the stairs pitch, because elevators are not. It's better to take the stairs because of the physical shape. So I'm gonna be climbing some stairs and pitching you this shortly. So we at Melly Bio from Berkeley, California, are making real honey without the bees in order to make a positive impact on bee biodiversity. Because honey production heavily or mostly focused on commercial beekeeping is actually not helping the bees. There are 20,000 bee species, and out of those 20,000 bee species, only 7 to 11 bee species are honeybees. And with new beehives being placed all over the planet in order to meet the rising demand for honey, honeybees are actually pushing back on wild and native bee species. And as long as you have a beekeeper, honeybees will never go extinct. If you have one person living on the planet and that person is a beekeeper, honeybees will never go extinct. But losing wild and native bee species, actually, we are having a huge problem, because we won't be able to get them back, to revive them. And they are more important than honeybees because they are better pollinators. They're specifically great for some plants, and losing them, we would lose flora and fauna. On the other hand, honey is an amazing product, animal product, that we are looking to make the same just without the animal. We are looking for that honey to be sustainable, to be vegan, to be free of any toxic adulterants that honeybees can pick up on sprayed orchards, that honey is safe for infant consumption, to be safe for baby food, because bee-made honey is not safe to be consumed until the age of 2 because of special bacteria that's found there that's negatively impacting the infant's gut. So solving all these problems with our technology that's proprietary to Melly Bio, that's built by the team with a different background. I have 8 years of business experience in the European honey industry, and my co-founder is a scientist with 10 years of experience in the lab and project management. He has a PhD degree from UC Berkeley in biochemistry, and together we started this company in California almost a year ago, raised pre-seed funding, and now have 15 companies that sign letters of intent to purchase our product once it's in the market. And we are now transitioning from pre-seed to seed round.
Okay, so then I have 2 more questions. One, do you have any proof from a systems ecology point of view that reducing, I would just say, domesticated bee or honey bee populations will actually give way to a larger population of the, let's say, native or wild bees? That's the number one. And the number 2, I'm interested from a commercial perspective how you can like how a predated letter of intent for you looks like on with commercial partners, because that's, I think, pretty exciting also, and something we could apply in the cultured meat industry too.
Definitely. To your question number one, there are many studies showing that honeybees overpopulated are taking over the habitat. I invite you to go to melibio.com. I will type there in the chat, and you'll see the bees report that we compiled based on the scientific reports that came out recently. So you'll see that we are referencing them there. So you'll be able to understand what's going on with the bees. We are definitely sure that if there is other way to produce real honey and satisfy the market, that the initial thing would be that the commercial beekeeping won't be needing to grow anymore. So no new habit taken over from the wild and native bee species. And down the road, definitely relying more on our way to produce honey, we would be able to allow wild and native bee species to live. To your second question in terms of commercialization, we are really excited because we have a fourth occasion and the background of our founding team. As myself not being a scientist, I can have the whole day taking the calls and meetings with companies and investors and exciting them all about our mission and our products. And I'm happy that in the last couple of months, we talked to close to 100 companies, and 15 of them are really excited and wanted to sign up for this. So we anticipate that all the companies that are using sweeteners would really want their products to have impact on the bees, and switching their bee-made honey with our honey would actually be able to help saving the bees. There's a calculation that between 10,000 and 23,000 bees are needed to produce 1 pound jar of honey. And saving all these bees from work, and also saving all these bees that are impacted with the number of honeybees out there, we definitely understand that our mission and our impact can really show tangible results in maintaining the flora and fauna that's being pollinated by mostly wild and native bee species.
Thank you, Darko.
Thank you for the questions, David. Victoria, thank you for the glycemic index of honey. Honey is around 50. That's the glycemic index. So it's better than most of the sweeteners. I've seen some sweeteners with lower glycemic index, definitely. But if you would look at the honey holistically, you would understand and appreciate that it's the superior sweetener. That what honey has in total, that there's no other sweetener at that level of complexity, the taste, and the benefits. So definitely excited for catching up next week and talking more about this. We will have an option for our honey, for our plant-based honey, to be labeled as organic. We are making our technology to be able to be customized for the different needs of different clients. Some of them are definitely looking for organic, and we will be able to make that for them. You too. Thanks for joining.
Welcome to Back of the Yards Algae Sciences. My name is Leonard Lera, and I'm the founder and CEO. Our mission is to make sustainable plant-based food and food ingredients truly industrializable. And we are working with a wide range of algae and anaerobic digestate and mycelia to make this happen. We are attacking some of the planet's most serious problems: the sustainability of plant-based food, ensuring that vertical agriculture becomes a real part of food systems, and working to make cellular agriculture, that is lab-based or cell-grown meat, fish, seafood, chicken, all parts of our food system. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this visit. It's a beautiful summer's morning at the plant, home of Back of the Yards Algae Sciences.
Hi, I'm Shannon Theobald. I'm the author of Printing Your Dinner and the host of Big Food, Big Future podcast. I'm also a future food and all protein consultant, strategist, and all around big fan. I want to read an excerpt of my book for you, and then I'll share some thoughts. A huge part of the art of cooking is tradition. The recipes passed down from generation to generation that aren't even written down because you've seen your dad make it so many times, you just know. The personal twists, the imperfections, the secret ingredients in regional and family recipes are what coined the term home cooking. Can we do these things with biotech? Sure, but will it really taste the same? Will it transport us to the place and the emotion we associate with our favorite dishes? The ability of food to transport us back in time, so to speak, is actually scientifically proven. The amygdala, a part of your brain, encodes memories in the context of sensory information, so memories related to taste are especially salient. Personally, I take one bite of salty potatoes and I'm right there back in my hometown park. The smell of the charcoal barbecue, the sound of kids playing tag, and the sticky sweetness of an upstate New York summer all come rushing back. It's not so much the food itself I love, but the experiences that go along with it. Somehow, eating food created with biotech might not feel the same. Childhood foods are our own personal time machines. They're part of who we are and who we become. They tie us not only to our own past, but to the past of those traditions that came before us. How do we reconcile this continuity with the ever-evolving fusion of foods, cultures, and tech? If we can answer this question, perhaps we can foster peace between traditional and biotech food. This question stands in parallel to the topic of humanity in food. Moving forward inherently means changing culinary traditions. The foods that let us travel through time are a quintessential portrait of food's human factor. They connect us to the past, to each other, and without a doubt, they taste better when made by someone you love. New foods, no less special, tie us to the future. The evolving culinary plane is where biotech lies. Its presence will doubtlessly change traditional recipes we know and love, but that doesn't mean they have to disappear. People don't stop making regional classics just because new fusion foods take the stage. Korean grandmas haven't stopped cooking traditional plates because fusion Korean barbecue tacos have become trendy. Neither will those who value family and regional recipes stop making beloved dishes by hand because they have the ability to make them with biotech. These things can exist in parallel. Traditional food and food innovation can coexist as long as we recognize that the advent of new foods and the preservation of old ones are not mutually exclusive. When we eat nostalgic recipes, we're looking for something fundamentally different than when we eat new foods. Adventure, ingenuity, and experience. Or than we will be when we eat foods made with biotech. Perhaps health, morality, or whatever goals biotech is helping us reach. When we eat home cooking, we're looking for comfort and connection. When we eat food made with biotech, perhaps we'll be looking toward the future of tastes, of health, and of industry. People will continue to want to look both ways, just as they can now appreciate both Grandma's Jambalaya and trendy fusion restaurants downtown. Chefs don't need to worry about bioprinting and biotech's margins. Even amidst the advent of biotechnology in food, traditional cookbooks, traditional recipes, and traditional practices will continue to help people seek human connection. Now the question is, how can we leverage that sense of connection to light a spark that will encourage people to support biotech?
Isn't that the question? So as you can tell, that's me. I'm Shannon, one of your hosts for KET today, and I am also a future food strategist, primarily working in growth and brand development, and the author of Printing Your Dinner, hosted Big Food, Big Future, and alt protein consultant. And when Ira asked me to read a section of my book, she said, something that's meaningful to you. My first reaction was, oh crap. What is meaningful to me? Because all we want is to talk about something sexy, right? The next big thing that will blow up the industry. But what I really grapple with in my support of future food is how can we hold that at the same time as prioritizing the tradition and emotion that for so many people is a roadblock to future food. How can we respect both of those things? And my answer, a bit paradoxically, is play into those traditional paradigms. Because food cannot be separated from emotion. Like I said, it's inherently connected to the way the brain functions. So I mentioned the amygdala. Another really important part is the hippocampus, which is vital for encoding short-term to long-term memory. And the hippocampus also is involved in digestion and appetite. So we find that long-term memory and emotion are inherently connected to food. Now, any neuroscientists out there, I'm sure there are so many more details than that. But with my psychology background, that's become really apparent to me. And also just in my observations of people's emotions, right? So emotion is what makes food meaningful, and it's really vital that we play into that as we continue to develop plant-based and cell-based meats, because that's the one thing humanity all has in common. So therefore, we have to learn to lean into it in order to achieve our mission of making food kinder with tech. And this is what makes memes go viral. That may seem like a non sequitur, but stay with me. It's what keeps you coming back time and again to your favorite restaurant. It's what makes food tradition so impactful, because think of generation upon generation of emotion compounding on a single dish, right? How powerful is that? So it's not hard to see why we're met with some resistance when people think we're coming for their traditions. But this is a tightrope we have to walk. It's maintaining the space to both respect tradition and also give the opportunity to do so in new ways. So for the average person, this could mean using cultivated or plant-based meat in their grandma's most cherished recipe, or it can mean something as simple as including a plant-based option this Thanksgiving. Now, whatever it may be, the key here is that we get alt protein involved in those emotional experiences and those positive emotional experiences to integrate it into long-term memory. So while future tech is so revolutionary and so exciting, and I can barely contain myself from nerding out about it 90% of the time, I encourage you to also consider the traditional meaning inherent to the way people consume traditional meat. And if we can lean into that meaning and really communicate with people in a way that makes clear that we want to maintain that emotion, we want to maintain those traditions, and we're actually on this mission so that we can make the world a kinder place, a more sustainable place, so that we can have these traditions for a longer time, so that more people can experience them. So I encourage you to lean into traditional paradigms, but update them for the future. And thank you so much. I would love to get in touch. You can find me at Shannon Theobald. That's Theo like the name and bald like no hair. And on any platform, email me shannongtheobald@gmail.com or find me at shannontheobald.com. And next, I believe we have my co-host Isabella up. So I will turn it over to her now.
Great. Thanks so much, Shannon. I'm very excited for the session we have right now. We'll be talking about a little bit more on the foundational educational side about the future leaders of cellular agriculture, how we can start thinking about the future of food. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen just to give you a brief set of background. Just 1 second. But I'm from an organization called the Knowledge Society, which is a human accelerator program for young students, teaching them about problems like agriculture, and we've been talking about it very passionately today. So now I'm gonna share the screen. Boom. Well, TCAS is a human accelerator program, and what that really means is we take young students from ages 13 to 17 and we train them on how they can become the people to help solve a lot of these problems, contribute to innovations in food technology and other areas. We really focus on essentially Olympic level training, but for problem solving and for innovations and scientists and researchers. And without me just talking a lot about the program, we're a World Economic Forum School of the Future, recognized by different media outlets like Forbes. But I'm going to pass it on to our students who are going to show an example of what TCAS thinking is all about reframing problems. And first up, we have Sophia. She's from TCAS Boston. She's going to be talking about how optogenetics can be used as a design tool for cellular agriculture, a very interesting perspective where she'll focus on how technologies can help us advance the future of food. So I'm just going to give it away to Sophia, who can hopefully share her screen.
Okay, I'm going to try my best. Okay, can you see anything?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So, can we connect the Sahara Desert to the Amazon rainforest? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. These two are polar opposites. They're literally half a world apart. And you'd be right about that, but what if I told you there was a way to connect them? Nutrient-rich sand from the Sahara Desert is picked up by a wind current and blown all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, where it lands on the Amazon rainforest. And this sand is full of important nutrients that the rainforest needs, like phosphate. But because of the heavy rainfall in the Amazon, those nutrients are constantly being washed away. However, if we have a consistent flow of desert sand, the rainforest will be able to stay alive. So the Sahara Desert quite literally provides the Amazon rainforest with the resources it needs to sustain itself. And it might be a little bit of a stretch to say, but you could say that the Sahara Desert helps to slow climate change. So if we could use biomimicry as a tool to help connect optogenetics to our cellular agriculture practices, we'll be able to make lots of different changes to the way we do things. One example of biomimicry would be the kingfisher. The kingfisher's beak shape inspired Japanese engineers to change the shape of their bullet trains. The bullet trains were creating reverberations when they were entering tunnels, and it was because their nose tip was blunt. This was causing lots of damage to the tunnels, and they were on the verge of collapse. But by changing the shape of the train's nose, inspired by the kingfisher, they were able to make the trains a lot safer and quieter. So if we can look at optogenetics from a biomimicry point of view, we can create a tool that we can use to solve numerous problems. Optogenetics will provide a much smoother ride when we're developing our cellular agriculture technology. So imagine this. You're in a car and you have to drive from New York to California. But here's the catch. You don't get a map, you don't get a GPS, and you have to drive blindfolded. That would be pretty hard to do, right? I mean, if I tried to do that, I would probably get my license taken away. But unfortunately, this is exactly what it's like to unlock different scientific discoveries. It's like driving blind and just hoping you'll get to the right answer and hoping that you don't hit anyone on the way there. But it doesn't have to be like this. And optogenetics can be one of our solutions. It'll get us from point A to point B a lot smoother. Optogenetics will provide us with the ability to turn cells on and off and decode different biological signals. And this may seem like a science fiction movie you watched when you were a little kid, but trust me, it's definitely becoming a reality. Research is being done with mice and rats to better understand how our brains work and how the different regions of the brain affect the overall function. Optogenetics provides a targeted delivery of proteins that can be manipulated by light. So the execution of optogenetics is a pretty smooth process. And with targeted delivery, we get precise and accurate results. In my opinion, the key to optogenetic research are opsins. These are little membrane proteins that were originally found in algae and bacteria. They can convert light to electricity and energy, and the genes to create them are virally delivered to the neurons to carry out the optogenetic process. Opsins can be manipulated by light, so their channels can be opened and closed. This means that when light shines on the opsins, their channels open and they begin to pump positive ions into the neuron cell body. This builds up action potential and eventually the neurons can fire, which is insane to think about because scientists have essentially created modern day mind control. But neuroscience is only one example of how we can apply optogenetics. There are so many more, and one of them would be metabolism. Optogenetics will help us to understand and manipulate the metabolic enzymes network and their signaling. During a study conducted at Princeton University, the opto-EXP gene circuit was observed under different light conditions. And it's very apparent to see that when stimulated with light, the opto-EXP gene circuit produces a significant amount of PDC1, which plays a key role in many metabolic processes. And along with the production of PDC1, cell growth is also stimulated. So if we can have a deeper understanding of cell function, it'll help us to advance our production of protein in the future. And this method is clearly effective because when the gene circuit was in the dark, nothing happened to it. So right now, we're really just trying to crack a signaling problem. We're trying to understand the complicated network that is metabolism. And we can use this knowledge of metabolism to better design our bioreactors. Bioreactors are the chambers that house the cells and the scaffolding that they grow on. They provide perfect growing conditions for the cells inside. If we can add a light feature to the bioreactors, this will help us to have more control over the whole process. Unfortunately, this technology does not exist on a large or industrial scale yet, but it definitely could. If we can genetically manipulate the cells that we're growing, optogenetics will give us what we need to advance our agriculture practices just that much further. We'll have the ability to grow complex proteins like steak. And when you're growing steak, you have to think about a lot, like the different fats that you're growing, the tissues that are growing, and even the speed at which the cells are growing. Optogenetics can control all of this. So the goal is to mimic the environment the cells grow best in. And we want to recreate the biological systems that cells would normally be in, so they would grow as if they were in a chicken or a cow. Optogenetics and biomimicry will be the desert sand to cellular agriculture's rainforest. It'll provide the resources it needs to sustain itself. This unexpected connection could change our farming practices for good. It will have an everlasting impact on the way we produce protein. And I'll admit, the solution isn't always easy to find, but sometimes it's just a matter of connecting the dots. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia. That's her contact information, and I'm sure she'll have it in her profile as well. But now I'm going to give the floor to Avery, who's going to be talking about the future for culture media with some fun analogies and stories in there. I'll give it off to Avery.
All right, so first off, I'm going to ask you just to bear with me because this might seem like a bit of a strange analogy. So a little while ago, I had to go to the store and buy some female menstruation products. And because I'm not one to usually spend money on suboptimal products, I made a very thorough list of the pros and cons of buying the two main kinds of things I could buy, namely pads and tampons. Now, in doing this, I realized that pads are often loathed because they make you feel as though you're wearing a very sticky diaper, and tampons are often feared because of toxic shock syndrome, and no one really knows how long to keep them in. So anyway, I went to the store and I was looking at all the boxes of pads and tampons on the shelves when I noticed a third item, something called the Diva Cup. The Diva Cup is something discreet, which the tampon is not, and can be kept in for a long time, which the tampon can't be. This thing literally solves all the problems we have with pads and tampons, yet they're still overshadowed. In many ways, the same thing can be said about cellular agriculture. particularly when it comes to the culture media. When cells are cultured in vitro, they go through 4 main steps. So first, stem cells, which have the potential to differentiate into many different kinds of specialized cell, are collected from the animal. These stem cells are then immersed in a culture media, which is a liquid containing all the essential nutrients that cells need to grow and divide, hence increasing their population. Then the stem cells are seeded to a scaffold, which is like a mold, which gives the cells a structure so that they look like a chicken leg or a steak, for instance. Then the scaffold is put in a bioreactor, which exposes the cells to a bunch of different environmental cues, which encourage them to actually turn into muscle tissue, which is the meat that people will end up consuming. Now, in the second step, the culture media is typically formulated of a basal media, which is a liquid containing things like sugar and salt and protein and different fats, all the things that are necessary for cells to grow. But they also contain growth factors, which are small molecules added in trace amounts, but are still very necessary for a cell's growth. One of the biggest challenges with cellular agriculture is the cost of the culture media, which is actually mainly incurred due to the serum that growth factors come from. This is why a lot of research has mainly focused on developing serum-free culture media or decreasing the expenses associated with growth factors. It's effectively become the poster child of cultivated meat dilemmas. But just like pads and tampons have overshadowed Diva Cups, the quest to change the formulation of the culture media has overshadowed another potentially viable solution. That is the quantity involved. As muscles consume nutrients, grow, and contract, they produce lactic acid, which is exactly what happens to your muscles when you exercise. As the lactic acid is released into the cell's environment, the pH begins to drop and the environment becomes more acidic. Now, the ability for a cell to uptake nutrients depends on the acidity of the environment. If the pH is above or below a certain window, this ability will slow way down, the cells will stop growing, population will stop increasing, and that's really not what we want. All right, so now a bit of a minor digression. One of my family friends' moms is Italian, and I suppose somewhat stereotypically, she is a wicked pasta maker. But even better than her pasta maker is the marinara sauce that she eats quite generously on top. What makes her marinara sauce so good is pasta water, which is the leftover starchy liquid that you get after you finish cooking the noodles. She says she cringes every time she sees someone pouring pasta water down the drain because she says it's literally liquid gold. It has so much potential. Now, going back to the issue of lactic acid accumulation, the current solution is to periodically drain the system of old culture media and replace it with new culture media that doesn't have any lactic acid. This makes a lot of sense at first thought, right? Like you are able to get rid of the lactic acid so you can maintain the pH of the environment, cells continue to grow, everything's okay. However, in addition to lactic acid, the media that's thrown away may still actually contain perfectly viable nutrients that the cells can still use. If my friend's Italian mother was a cultivated meat researcher, she would surely cringe at this situation because it's exactly like the pasta water situation. Prematurely draining culture media is like getting rid of pasta water before making marinara sauce. We're literally dumping valuable resources down the drain. What this means is that 1, this method is very wasteful, and 2, because culture media is by far the most costly part of in vitro cultivation, it's also very, very expensive. How expensive? Well, culture media is currently responsible for 80% of the total cellular agriculture production costs. So clearly we can't be affording to waste more culture media than we need to. So as with many parts of cellular agriculture, to solve this specific problem, we'll take inspiration from the place where meat is originally cultivated, that is, an animal's body. An animal's body contains specific mechanisms in order to enable muscle to grow without having to contend with a whole bunch of lactic acid. The main way is something called the Cori cycle. The Cori cycle is essentially the body's recycling system. It turns glucose to lactic acid in the muscles and then lactic acid back to glucose in the liver tissue. It's how our bodies regulate energy from our metabolic waste. So instead of needing to fully exchange the culture media, increasing waste and increasing expenses, let's see if we can induce the Cori cycle in cell cultures. That way we can mitigate the concentration of lactic acid and also convert it to a usable fuel source. We can do this by co-culturing muscle cells with hepatocytes, that is by growing muscle tissue in the same environment as liver tissue. From this, we can even go as far to say that liver tissue is like the olive oil to muscle tissue's vanilla ice cream. So this might not make a lot of sense, so let me elaborate. A little while ago, me and my family, we went to an olive grove, and because it was very hot, I ordered a scoop of vanilla ice cream. But when the lady at the counter handed me my scoop of vanilla ice cream, it was drenched in olive oil. And at first I was like, what? This is so weird. Like, who puts olive oil on ice cream? Like, I'm not eating this. But anyway, I took a bite and it was so good. I tried chocolate flavored oil, spicy oil, pecan flavored oil, a whole bunch of different berry flavored oils, and it was a whole thing. I definitely recommend if you haven't tried it. But anyway, the point is that olive oil and vanilla ice cream are things that many people like on their own. They don't usually think of putting them together because they kind of exist in like different realms of the culinary universe. But as it turns out, they do work even better when they're put together, just like muscle tissue and liver tissue. Now, of course, this isn't to say that we'll never have to replace culture media. It will inevitably have to be changed once the cells use up all the nutrients. But at least this way, nutrients won't have to be thrown away prematurely. An additional benefit is that liver cells also have been known to secrete beneficial growth factors, and this has potential secondary benefits for the original poster child of cultivated meat dilemmas. That is, sourcing animal-independent growth factors in a relatively cheap way. So for a while now, we've all thought that the way to bring down the culture media cost is to figure out alternative ways to source growth factors. And in all honesty, that's not to say that we shouldn't, right? We should find alternative ways to source growth factors for a variety of ethical reasons. But when it comes to cost, just as we can't deny that Diva cups might be a more helpful solution than pads and tampons, perhaps this idea of co-culturing will render reducing the quantity of culture media as significant or more significant than what the culture media is actually made of. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Avery. And now Avery and Sophia, and I think I will pop into the breakout room after the talk. So that's what's happening now. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Oh, Avery, perfect. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And if you wanted to contact any of us, I believe we have that all in the profile. So we'll see you in the breakout room. Hi, Emma. Hi. So long. How are you?
Bravo, ladies! You did such an awesome job. Love it. Love it. I wish I could give you a hug.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you a hug too. Such a good job. I'm so, as always, by you guys. Like,
yeah, they crushed it. It was so good. Yeah. So happy with how it went.
Totally. So I met Isabella at last year's event and was similarly wowed by her intellectual superiority over most people in the room and confidence and, hey, I'm here and talk to me and get involved. And you two seem just the same. So it's a pleasure to meet. I thought I'd just jump in your session and say hi.
No, it's so nice to see you, Emma. And it looks like today's going really well and it's very cool to end the sessions.
Oh, yes. It's been quite a long day. Yes.
And you have 5 hours left.
Yeah. 6 hours live and 5 hours to go. It's like,
oh my gosh. You guys are really pulling through. I got an email from Ira a few hours ago and I'm like, she definitely did not sleep.
No sleep to be had.
And I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you had minimal sleep this week as well.
Yeah, no, there's been a couple of sleepless nights, that's for sure. But it seems like it's all coming together. Like, so hooray, that's great.
I'm sure.
I was just going to let Sophia and Avery know what Citizen Kind is. So we are a recruitment consultancy and innovation consultancy. So we work with companies who are focusing specifically on solving the world's problems, and find them brilliant people to help them do that. So that's right, just a no-brainer. And if either of you want any help with putting together a resume or making introductions to people or anything like that, I'm your girl. I can help. So I'll put my details in your chat if you like, so you can drop me an email, and then that's probably the easiest way. But I'm on LinkedIn. I also post a lot about this stuff on LinkedIn. So, I mean, I probably post 3 or 4 articles a day from various places all over the world. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, you'll probably get quite a lot of information that way. So it's really...
Yeah, that's awesome.
Generous of you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, you know, you need help. So he needs help. So I'm just paying it forward. When I was your age, so it's all good.
Emma,
It's too silly. Just ask me.
I was going to say, if you're interested, I know the TCAS partnerships team is looking at potentially a recruitment arm and looking at how we can help a lot of students. Would you like to be connected?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be a really awesome pairing as well.
Yes, I love it.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That's great. I'm going to go because I can see there are other people coming up to talk to you. So I'm going to let Ahmed step into my place.
Hi, Ahmed.
Lovely to meet you both. Great to see you. Is great. See you later. See you at the after party. Whoop, whoop.
Hi, Ahmed. I think you can just hop in. I'm not too sure how this works.
Hey, does this work?
Yeah. Hi, Ahmed. How are you doing?
Hey, hi everyone. I just want to jump in and quickly say, great presentation there, and you're at the Now Society. Wow, you guys are doing such great work. It's always exciting to see what you guys are all up to there.
Thank you.
Amazing. And I love your blog. I love Cell Agri. I remember when I was just starting, I use it all the time. Super awesome.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, really appreciate that. What projects are you all working on these days?
Well, I guess for me, kind of continuing on with the whole cellular agriculture thing, and I guess I spent a lot of time looking into the presentation or the theory behind the presentation I just gave. But I'm also sort of starting to look at, I guess, larger problems within our homeless system, because that's also something I've been very interested in. So I'm a little bit all over the place at the moment, but yeah.
Way to go.
She works at GFI, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm working with GFI just to produce some educational content at the moment to help, I guess, democratize access to knowledge within cellular agriculture in the field.
Hey, that's amazing.
So I think for me, I was going to start like a focus of research with personalized medicine, but ever since I started looking into this keynote, I kind of want to take a deeper dive with optogenetics because it's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I'm actually I help with a lot of program stuff at TCAS. So Avery's working on a project to develop sort of an exploratory module course for our students. So I help a lot on the coursework side, trying to get a lot of our curriculum through different partnerships. Sometimes I'll aid there, but I actually work on I started in Cell Ag, but I'm doing something totally different now with maternal mortality. I'm working with the Nigerian Ministry of Health to distribute a drug called misoprostol to reduce deaths from bleeding after birth. So I'm working on a team to build that out.
Oh, that's so interesting. And you're doing that from Toronto as well?
Yeah, from Toronto, but we have an on-ground partner team in Nigeria, and then we also have the Ministry of Health team. So it's a very global initiative. We have some advisors across sub-Saharan Africa, so a lot of good local support.
Wow, you guys you threw it everywhere. Way to go there. That's so exciting.
Yeah. But I think it's cool now because I know we haven't seen too much of action in Africa, but now that I'm starting to build that network, I hope I can eventually leverage it. I know I was talking to someone who's currently starting to run sort of like a STEM project for young students, and I want to get them to integrate some cell ag perspective so that kids in West Africa actually have exposure, and then maybe we can build up the industry a little bit more there.
There you go. That's a really good point. And that's something people sometimes forget, that when it comes to cell agriculture and the whole idea of cell culturing food, we don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel. The technology has already been there, right? The tissue engineering, stem cell engineering, it's always there. It's just about repackaging it and trying to scale it to a level that can make it more affordable and more easily accessible. So that's a really great point there, Isabella, trying to raise awareness to the right audiences, because that's what we're seeing right now. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to say, what about you? What are you working on right now at Cell Agri? I would love to hear any future vision stuff.
Oh, wow. So quite a bit. I mean, quite a few projects yet to be announced, but let us say right now, last week we announced Cell Agri is organizing a end of the year summit ourselves, looking at just specifically on cell agriculture and the wider ecosystem around that. So instead of focusing just on the meat side, we're including the dairy and acellular fermentation agriculture as well as also biomaterials. That's a side of cell agriculture that once got a lot more attention than it currently does now. So the goal of that event is just to bring the wider ecosystem together, but that's not for a while.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, appreciate that. I also just want to give a quick shout out here to all the great work TKS is doing with Cell Agriculture Canada back home. It's been incredible. The whole TKS team, you guys have done an incredible job. I have to jump off right now, but
no worries. Thank you so much for hopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Ayla. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And the floor is yours. I shouldn't be doing this because I'm not supposed to be here. So I just flew in and I'm now flying out again. And the floor is yours, Daniel.
Okay, so I start with this. It's much easier after all. So what we do is, and what we think about and what we do is spread the spores. It's meaning we use higher mushrooms for the usage of deriving active ingredients out of these higher mushrooms. And these higher mushrooms can be used to derive to derive, for example, a gluconeo, which is a new active ingredient out of it. It can be used for cure of wounds or whatever. And that's the one issue, though it's a very efficient active ingredient on the one hand, and on the other hand, the way we harvest our mushrooms is an ecological friendly or sustainable and regenerative forestry, and therefore I just skip into it. It's horrible. Okay, next one. So the company is called Sunderschwamm Naturprodukte, and we are a developer and manufacturer of biologically extracted and optimized natural compounds out of tinder fungus, which is a higher mushroom. We are a company with two scientific advisors, mainly from the medicinal sector, PhD from dermatology. So we mainly focus on gut problems or skin problems with our product. So here you see the tinder mushroom, or in English language is often called horse hoof fungus because it looks like a horse hoof. The the regular scientific name is Fomis formentarius. Probably, you know, the younger ones know the Tinder app, and the older ones know Tinder to start fire. And the Tinder to start fire was derived from this Tinder fungus, so it's the source for this Tinder. Now our aim is to use it to derive active ingredients out of it, because in traditional medicine it had always been used to cure wounds. And our approach was, okay, is there any kind of idea or any kind of why it can be used? It's just to dry up the wounds, or is there any biological aspect to accelerate the wound healing? And that was our main aim. And nowadays we derive 2 active ingredients out of this Tinder mushroom. The first one is glucaneo, and the other one is ivoglucane. And you can use it, for example, glucaneo for more or less dietary purpose or medical purpose. And you can use it for gut problems on the one hand, and on the other hand for skin disorders. One main aim on the first tests we made is the wound healing test, and therefore the blue line is the regular wound healing. It's after 6 hours, relatively around about 20% of the wound is closed by new skin cells. And after 22 hours, the regular wound is closed within 80% with new cells, with so-called fibroblasts. With our glucaneo, the closure of the wound is much faster. So we closed the wound up to 80% within 6 hours. And after 22 hours, it's completely closed with new fibroblasts, so we can reduce scars, we can accelerate the wound healing, etc. But we also have an impact on on skin inflammation. For example, we tested the skin inflammation on cytokine interleukin 6, and therefore we are able to enhance the interleukin 6, and we can accelerate wound healing or reduce of itchiness. Or when you think of dietary supplements, we can reduce side effects in the gut system, like pain or whatever. On the or irritated bowel syndrome, we can reduce the symptoms of irritated bowel syndrome. And another aspect is we tested is interleukin 8, which is a typical mechanism of corticosteroids. And these corticosteroids had been used as a positive control. And what we accelerated here is, if you want, so it's just a sunburn on skin tissue, and therefore we can accelerate interleukin 8 in a dose dependent way, quite similar to dexamethasone, which is a very common corticosteroid. Therefore, we can reduce the side effects, the redness, the itchiness of, let's say, sunburn, or what is even more interesting for us, typical side effects of atopic eczema or psoriatic eczema. And then therefore, we made some, these were the first in vitro trials. And then we also made in vivo trials together with our dermatologists. And therefore, you see the typical effects in vivo. This is atopic eczema. In Germany, it's often called neurodermitis. The typical symptoms are redness and itchiness, and therefore, when you see the redness is gone in about 24 hours, and you see also a reduction of the redness, and the wound care is much better than without using our cream. And also itching is gone within minutes. Another aspect is from the family of atopic dermatitis disorders is dyshidrotic eczema in the hands. It's quite common. It's quite common, and therefore you see the reduction of this dermatitis within 2 weeks, and it's almost gone, which is rather impressive. Because this patient has been treated with a typical corticosteroids before, with no effect at all. Another aspect we made is psoriatic eczema. We made really several trials on psoriatic eczema, and there you see the typical lesions of psoriatic eczema, and within 3 months it's almost gone. Or when you see this one. This is a typical way of psoriasis cutate. There you see the first lesion. It's getting bigger, and without any treatment, it's getting bigger and worse after all. When you use our cream, there we reduce the redness within 12 days, and a totally remission of the psoriatic eczema plague. Or here you see the same effect, so the reduction of the plaques. Another one is what we also mentioned, wound healing, or when you think of scars, and this what I already mentioned in the in vitro trials. This is just a cut, a simple cut. And this is when you use our cream, and it's not so impressive at all. But the most impressive thing is it's 8:50 a.m. and this is 9:30 a.m. So it's pretty fast as well, and you see the typical reduction of the redness and also of the cut at all. But therefore, we can derive products from or active ingredients from higher mushrooms, but the art or how we use it and how we derive and how we harvest our products is also quite interesting, because it's we focus on ecological aspects, and we promote a kind of regenerative forestry, if you want so. In the middle of Europe, where we harvest our tinder Kong or tinder mushroom, the typical forest look like this one. So together with our partners, we turn these typical forests, which are not these typical forests are not too adapted to the typical climate change problems, and in Germany it's a huge problem that the forests are quite dying at all. It's really a huge problem, and we transfer these common forests in Europe into more or less little micro ecosystems. It's into wild forests, and these ecosystems have a much higher biodiversity. Also, they are more resistant to the typical dryness due to climate change. And this a major aspect is that we enhance the water binding capacity for the plants around the trees in the forest. So this is mainly what we do. And now the time is over, and hope you got a short impression what we do. And thanks for having me.
No, this should go to, yeah.
Surprise. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was incredible. I'm seriously blown away by all of the amazing things that can do. I could use quite a few of them myself. So
if you want to, we can ship some samples. It's no problem at all. So I was quite nervous because but I think what we do is we have two aspects. The one is a more effective aspect that we enhance the ecosystem in the forest, and the other one is we use a very efficient way. When you think of when we harvest 1 kilogram of the tinder conch, we can derive 700 grams of the active ingredients out of it. And with this 700 gram of active ingredients, we can produce round about 5,000 packs of cream or whatever. So it's rather efficient on the one hand, and therefore we focus more or less on this evidence-based approach and use it as efficient as ever possible. And on the one hand, to harvest it as eco-effective as ever possible. Though that's our approach, and it's just as simple as it is. So
I love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank
Amazing.
you so much,
All
Daniel.
right.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have you seen my presentation?
Yes, I did. Yes.
I was a bit nervous because it hadn't worked.
Great, you were really good. I was so impressed with what you guys are doing. It's
I just mentioned, but our approach is rather simple as it is. So on the one hand, we want to use this wonderful tinder mushroom as efficient as ever possible. So this is the one sustainable approach we have. Though therefore we just focus on research and development of these kind of active ingredients and make them as active and as effective as possible.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I think it's also possible to let's say to change the ecosystem in the forest, and in Germany, mainly in the where we derive our tinder mushroom from, we have a huge climate change impact on the forests.
Yeah.
And then therefore with our approach, our forest or harvest approach, we can bind water to the rotten wood we produce with our tinder fungus, and therefore we can use. We can produce islands of biodiversity and then more water binding in the forest, and it's pretty important, and it's getting more and more important as it's getting drier and drier here in Germany. So it's rather interesting.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating and so important now. It feels like the urgency and the sort of time pressure is just increasing. Day that passes. So I'm delighted to hear of what you're doing. It sounds wonderful. So whereabouts in Germany are you based?
We're based in the northern of Bavaria. So in you probably know Nuremberg. It's rather the middle between Munich and Berlin. So it's rather in the middle. And it's Bavaria. So I'm not used to talking English, and I'm not used to talking German as well, because I have a really bad Bavarian accent when I talk German. So it's complicated. If I make a presentation, it's in English, and in German it's also complicated. So, but
you did very
tried
well.
my very best.
You did really well. I was very impressed. So just wanted to say, I thought it was really good.
And you at Citizen Kind, you're more or less a human resource company, right? Did I get it right?
Yes, sort of. So human resource typically deals with, I suppose, within these the inner workings of how employees are relating to their employer. I suppose what we do is we get companies the biggest brains and the best talent that there is out there and bring them into the companies. So so we're more externally focused, but we take time to get to know the businesses that we work with, so it feels like we're an internal resource that's acting on their behalf. So yes, and we work specifically with companies who are doing good in the world, so working sustainably, ethically, and I'm a vegan, so I have a leaning that way too. So like all those sorts of companies as well. So I'd love to grow. What are your plans? Are you going to be hiring people? And
it's actually, we are planning the next. We're planning a funding phase also, because what makes it very interesting, because we have some dermatologists in our team, and they. No, I don't know why, but they focus on the actinic keratosis. It's the pre-cancer stadium, and therefore we want to set up a research program in terms of medical device for this issue, because it looks quite promising that our gluconeo has an impact on these actinic keratosis plaques. So therefore we pretty sure will hire some, or are going to hire some really talented researchers on that issue. So we need probably, let's say, for the funding phase, of around 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And then we want to hire some let's say PhD or whatever, just to the study stuff and in vitro trials, in vivo trials, and things like that.
Sure. No, definitely. And of course, that's the other thing when you're funding, is that, is one of the key things that investors are looking at always. So that's why another reason why we're so keen to make sure that companies like yours get the really, the best people that are. So you get the money and it makes it happen.
And then companies like yours, it's very important for us as small companies, because typically here it's in Bavaria, the pharmaceutical companies are quite huge. When you think of Sandoz or whatever, so they all get the really talented guys because we can't afford them. So we just need, let's say, employees which are interested in what we are doing, or more or less a sustainable mindset, and therefore I would be curious to let's say to talk with you about that issue. Probably honestly, we are in the middle of nowhere in Germany, but anyway, even in the middle of nowhere, we need some talented guys. So and we are also looking for, let's say, international employees if they want to go to the middle of nowhere in Germany. But
how wedded to your location are you? How wedded to how important that you stay where you currently are?
It's just a matter of heart, I think. It's not a matter of we can move the company to let's say Nuremberg, which is rather close. It's no problem at all, or to Bamberg or whatever. So but in some cases it's more or less a matter of heart, because it's a kind of cozy little company. But anyway, it's probably we have to move in the next few years.
The thing to in that instance to think about is, do you want to stay a busy company in a small place, and or do you want to have your crew available in every country all over the world, because
That's right.
because
Mm-hmm.
you because you've grown.
Yeah.
And because you move, and it is hard, because I think that step is a really difficult step to take, because it is such an emotional pull, and it feels almost and it's terrifying because you're stepping into the unknown as well. But I think it's a really important part of every company's evolution is to act on what's right for the business, and to almost disassociate yourself from some decisions, because your emotions can stop you from progressing. And one of those emotions is fear. And another one is comfort. And comfort is the enemy when you're growing a business, because comfort will stop you.
That's right. You're right.
My advice would be, if you are seriously considering moving location, I would choose somewhere that is close to a university, because the types of people that you're going to need, obviously,
right.
they have great networks, but you also need young people as well. So that's my top tip. Pick a university town.
Yeah, I think that's the best, or even just for the research center, it might be as well as possible, because the production, the manufacturing of the active ingredients can be in our tiny little.
That can be exactly. You can have more location. That's no problem. So you can make your headquarters where you are, but the main somewhere else.
Somewhere else, right. So, and what is the way you work? It's just you get a kind of headhunting for young talent, or how do you work? Or do you want to get to know about our business and our mindset and
to really understand exactly what's important to you, your values are, what your ambitions are, how you like to work, how you like to manage, how you like to communicate, all of those things. So we really go into the minutiae, and to get that understanding. That means that then we can go and really just do it all for you. So you wouldn't get involved. We would do all of the screenings. So we'd look at, we'd advertise, and we'd approach who we felt matched the criteria, and then we to you once we'd found them, for you to then meet with and interview. And then when the best ones that we found, that's when you move to the next stage, and then we can help work with you to help you make those decisions as well, and formulate a plan from there. So if we really just the whole thing, that whole recruit, and take responsibility for it.
Really cool.
So it works in a very time constricted way as well.
But you're surely right. So we have to think about what would. To be honest, we work on really big issues. But when you think of skin canceration, of white skin cancer, it is a huge problem. And what drives me, on the one hand, what drives me to get it done, but on the other hand, it drives me crazy also. But it just we have probably it's not just our active ingredient. Probably these very good ideas presented all over during the day. Today it's amazing, but we have a kind of key, and this key we should grow with our business just to get it accessible for plenty of people all around the world. For when you think of South Africa or whatever, so this will be our task for the next years.
Absolutely, and so I think it's great. I think it's exciting. So I can't wait to find out more. Well, pop you my in there. chat box.
Mhm.
And pop me an email. We can keep chatting, and I'd love to help as
I'd
much
love
as
to
I
do.
can. And it doesn't
Okay.
recruit about anything like we've just been. So
Okay. Thank you very much. I will send you an email with my contact data, and I'm looking forward to talking
perfect.
to you. So
Well, it's so lovely to meet you, Daniel. Thanks so much.
thank you, Emma.
Yeah, enjoy the rest
It was
of
a
the
pleasure.
event.
Yeah, you also.
Soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. So you're wife,
Wife.
right? Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Your talk. Could you speak more? Could you tell me more about your company?
Our company is a German-based company, and we derive, let's say, active ingredients out of mushrooms, out of higher mushrooms. And probably you're located in India, right?
India, yes.
Okay. Where in Tamil Nadu, no?
I'm not in Tamil
Where
Nadu.
are
I
you?
know.
Where are you located in India?
I'm located in Mumbai.
Okay, that's nice. Because I visited a friend in Tamil Nadu, but India is so huge. It's rather 2 times bigger than the whole European Union. I guess. So what we do is we derive active ingredients out of mushrooms, and we use these active ingredients, let's say, to reduce skin problems, or when you think of gut problems, problems with digestion, it reduces the side effects of this or the symptoms of these problems. And this is mainly what we do. And what we also do is the kind we harvest our mushrooms. We make it in a kind of eco-friendly or regenerative way. So we make the environment or the micro environment better with higher biodiversity, higher biodiversity. If you want, I can share some slides with you if you want.
Fine with it. Like,
Okay.
so you extract the specific compounds, like
yes,
like polyphenols,
extract,
you extract them and then you.
Mainly beta-glucans, but also polyphenolic compounds like terpenes, but the main the compounds we derived. We did the main research at the moment is a unsolvable beta-glucan fiber, and then this beta-glucan fiber, for example, enhances the wound healing of skin. So you reduce redness, you reduce cuts or whatever. So that's what we do. When you digest it internally, you can reduce the side effects of for example, leaky gut syndrome or any kind of gut problems, if you want. So, and what are you doing? So,
I'm actually just a student now, an undergrad student.
Okay.
So I just joined this conference to just learn more about this industry. Okay.
And what kind of
technology.
What is your purpose? And it's do you study a medical doctor or eco-science or whatever?
No, I'm studying. I'm doing my bachelor's in food engineering and technology.
Okay. So what we do with the mushroom is we let's say we separate the soluble compounds with the unsolvable compounds, and then we let's say identify or isolate several compounds out of the extract or out of the unsoluble compounds, and we use, for example, CO2 extraction or water extraction or extraction with higher with alcohols or whatever, and then we derive these and then we separate it with these active ingredients, and then therefore we have a very effective or efficient active ingredient, and then that's the main.
So mostly the CO2 supercritical fluid extracts you use.
Yes, supercritical CO2, right? Yeah. But when you because in the there are some other mushrooms which are more important for supercritical CO2, but because they have it's rather simple. They have more of these polyphenolic compounds. And the tinder fungus I presented today, it is it has a lot of or plenty of beta glucane fibers, and these beta glucane fibers from the tinder fungus are interesting because they have a high let's say affinity to several receptors on the tissue, and that's what makes it so important, and therefore we have to isolate these beta-glucane fibers out of this.
So you're working specifically on that particular mushroom, extracting.
We started with this mushroom. At the moment, we're working on other mushrooms as well, but only higher mushrooms. Meaning the higher mushrooms are the typical mushrooms building the fruiting body. So when you think of the typical mushrooms, and what we focus mainly is wood decaying mushrooms, and then they have plenty. When you probably in India or in China, the reishi or lingxi mushroom is quite huge. And therefore we have a relative to this mushroom, to this reishi mushroom in Germany. It's called and this one we use with supercritical CO2, or the tinder mushroom, the tinder conch we use for isolating the beta glucane fibers. So we have several active ingredients at the moment. Mm-hmm.
So how do you grow it, like mushrooms? Do you grow it on soil or the medium, or is it in a bioreactor of some sort?
We have two ways, and on the one hand we use mushrooms on wood decaying mushrooms. So we need a wood or whatever. But the mycelium, the regular mushroom is the mycelium. And we cultivate the mycelium in bioreactors, and then we use this mycelium to put it into the wood, and therefore for the tinder conch, and then the tinder conch needs let's say wood to produce the fruiting body, and some compounds, some active ingredients we derive out of the fruiting body. And therefore, we use the mycelium out of the bioreactor, put it into the wood, and then the fruiting body comes out of the wood, and we harvest the fruiting body. That's as simple as it is. Yeah.
So it's just used for those extracts, and the remaining part is discarded away, or like just asking.
Mm-hmm. Like the remaining part of the. But when we use it, we also use the mycelium produced in the bioreactor. We use it also, but the part in the in the wood, for example, we just let it there. So it's getting biomass in the wood, so which is rather important in Europe, or in because at the moment we have a huge problem due to climate change. The wood here in the middle of Europe are getting drier and drier, which is untypical for the wood for the ecosystems here in Germany or the middle of Europe, if you want so. So with our when we use our mycelium and we pack it into a log of wood. And then the wood gets decayed, and therefore it's getting back to soil, if you want so, and therefore we close the gap. And when a log of wood is insulated with mycelium, it can bind much more water than without the mycelium. And that's rather simple, the trick. We use rotten wood with a lot of mycelium, and therefore we can bind a lot of water in the ecosystem. So, but it's just a water depot for the surrounding plants, if you want so.
So could I know, like, from which background you are from? Like, were you part of this mushroom sector, or were you
I'm sorry, I didn't get it acoustically.
your background?
My background. I'm a nutrition scientist. So I worked in my background is a nutrition scientist, and I worked in a research department of a big pharmaceutical company. And then I started my own company. It's Sunderschwamm Naturprodukte GmbH. Right.
Could you pronounce it?
And what are you? Yeah, it's a typical German name, so it's pretty uncommon. The company is called Sunderschwamm Naturprodukte GmbH, which is just the type of the company.
GmbH,
it's rather complicated, I guess, for India. And what are you planning to do in the future, James, when you study your bachelor at the moment?
Yes, now I'm in my 3rd year, so next year is my final year. I'll be graduating next year. So.
And you will have you will do the master degree, right?
Doing so. I was thinking, like, there are some few universities in Europe as well. Like Maine, I've heard about in Netherlands, Wageningen. So
this is really good. Wageningen is really good. As I was a student, I joined a conference in Japan. And there was an advisor from University of Wageningen, and also 2 students. And this university is really good. If you can get there, do it. It will be a boost for your career. This is really Wageningen is really good.
Like, apart from that, I think US a few universities also I've seen. Like, one of them is, I think, UMass. I've heard, Amherst. And apart from that, University of California, Davis, and I forgot just one more name. It was part of, I think, one of those Ivy League universities. So these are those high-profile names that I've thought about, but that depends on like how whether I get into them or not. No. But Maine, I feel like I'm trying to aim for Wageningen. Like, since I've heard about its name.
In the US, I don't know any of the universities, so unfortunately. But Wageningen, I do recommend Wageningen because it's really good, and they are let's say they are progressive. They are on top of the line, so it will be a boost for your career.
I've heard about, like, I'm going offline, but I've even heard about universities in, like, Scandinavian countries. They're also doing good. Like,
probably in Scandinavia, I have some business partners in Scandinavia, but regarding the universities, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
I think in Zurich as well. I think ETH.
Zurich, ETH Zurich is really good. I have contact to advisor now he's an advisor at Regensburg, but he studied and made the PhD at ETH Zurich, and also had some lectures at ETH Zurich. This is one of the excellent. This is really an excellent university, ETH in Zurich. Another one is the Technical University in Munich. This is also very good, but also in terms of food engineering, mainly when you think of let's say beverage industry or whatever, they are quite huge there, especially for beer, if you want. So, but
in Germany and beer is
the German beer. So, but this is the Technical University of Munich. But Munich is really expensive, so you should have a kind of funding or whatever. So Wageningen, I don't know, when you want to step into the beverage sector, Munich will be really good. But I think more progressive, if you want so, or more when you think of a more brighter view, Wageningen will be a good address to
speaking about technical, like
to go
Munich,
to.
I think there's an scheme or something like for students that there's zero tuition fee for students, I think, in Germany, like for government colleges, I think so.
That might be the case. I also know that there's probably, if you want, just drop me a note or drop me your email address, because I think there's also a student program in Bavaria. So Bavaria, the southern part of Germany, and Munich is located in Bavaria. So there's a let's say the kind of a partnership between Bavaria and India to get students from India to Germany or Bavaria. And I think they are located in Hof, and then I think I have some contact data I can hand over to you.
University of, and apart from that as well, I think there was one more university, Anhalt. Guess you might have heard.
Anhalt?
University.
Oh.
I'm
Okay.
sure
Sachsen-Anhalt. It's in Magdeburg or whatever?
I know it's just in Germany. I don't know what particular place.
Okay. And regarding food science, it's also it's called Gießen. They have food science as well. The other one is Bonn, which is pretty close to Cologne. And Gießen is huge in terms of nutrition science. They are focusing on not producing food. They are focusing on how to the nutritional side of the food, and then they are quite huge on that issue. So if you want, just skip me a note or skip me your email address, and I can hand over to you the contact data of the India-German governance part. When you want to study in Germany, probably they can help you with some funding program or whatever. So would love to do that if you want, if it helps you.
Or maybe I could reach out to you via LinkedIn. It's fine, or
fine. Yeah, just drop me a note via LinkedIn, and I will send you the contact data via LinkedIn. So,
And is it fine if I have some doubts or if I have some queries, I could contact you, like speak?
For sure. Yeah, don't hesitate to contact me. Yeah. So
because
looking forward to
Europe is somewhat like like for me as an Indian. Not many Indians go to Europe because there's a different language to be learned or somewhat. So people mostly prefer to go to US, like same English language.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's
because English, you perfectly speak English, so it's rather easy
like
for you, right?
As well. I think Germany, I think it is also known in polymer science as well. Polymers and all, polymer material science.
Polymer science, yeah.
So,
this is polymer material science is in I think it's in Halle. There's something regarding, and in Berlin and polymer science. If you want, just send me a note, and then I can make some research for you if you want. So
No, I
I
was
can
just trying to state that I
have a
have some
look at
friends
the university.
who are currently studying polymer sciences. So for them,
Okay.
Germany has so many courses well known, and Germany is a very huge in terms of this polymer science. It's a very huge country, but still they don't want to go to the country because they'll have to learn new languages, German.
Yeah. That's this is an issue, and when you think of Wageningen, I think in the University of Wageningen they are more used to talking English. In Germany, it's let's say that the Germans are Germans, and they're typical Germans, and those they just speak German and then not used to talking English too much. So this makes it. Honestly, it's also quite a problem for German companies or for German universities to get new talents to Germany, because German companies speak German and so on. They are not used to talking English or whatever. So it is a problem. So and we in Germany, we have to think about that approach just to make it more open for young talents. And in the IT sector, we made it quite open, especially for young talents from India. But in other sectors, like food industry in Germany is very let's say conservative. So it's rather it's conservative as it is. So
even like I was also advised that before you come to Germany, when you are taking up a course in Germany, you should take up it in German language instead of English, because I think the companies as well, they prefer people who know the native language rather than those who have studied in the English ones.
Yes. My wife worked for a huge company in terms of environmental engineering, and they had plenty of colleagues from abroad, so from Malaysia, from India, from China, whatever, and a main aspect was, or the main asset was that all the new talents have to learn German, which is ridiculous, because the typical language is English, and then everybody is used to talking English. But in some cases, the Germans are Germans, and they always will be German. So unfortunately, they are quite conservative. But it's slightly changing in some areas. So and even in the university sector, I studied at the Technical University of Munich. And there, when I finished my studies, the last years, there were more and more lectures in English language, which was not too easy for us as Germans, but it was good for the career at the end. So because then I moved to. Well, then I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and the company language was English, so I was quite used to talking English. So it's
what exact stream? Like,
it's also what I studied is also a typical German because German style, because before now the universities, they have bachelor and master. But before, I'm quite old, so before that we had diploma engineer. So it's a degree similar to master, and then it was you don't use it bachelor and then master. You just get it at once. So it's a diploma engineer, and what I studied was a diploma engineer for nutritional science.
So it was equivalent to a bachelor's plus a master's.
Now it's a bachelor and master, and the diploma engineer is similar to, it was in former times. It's and now it's similar to a master degree. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So why about just drop me a note at LinkedIn, and if you have any question, don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
So next up, we have Claudia, and I had the pleasure of actually tasting lots of Claudia's food last time in KET Amsterdam. She was our chef, and she did an incredible job. And we also went to her restaurant where I actually got to take the whole experience, and I wish I could go back again. It was so incredible. Really, really amazing. So I'm going to pass it over to Claudia, and she can take it away.
Thanks, Claudia.
Hey, hi guys. Thanks so much for having me. You can hear me, right? Okay, so I'm so glad I could be a part of this again. It was such a fantastic experience last year. It's such a shame that we can't all be together again, but perhaps next year. And cool that I got to join some of these chats. It was super technical and scientific. So I guess we have something a little bit different for you now. I'm gonna check how I do this. Share. I don't need to share entire screen. Does it just let me share it? Oh no. There we go. Perfect. Cool. So I have a video on how we roll sushi. Okay, so, and I'm sorry about the quality. This is not my talent, but here we go. So as you can see, you take the sushi rice and you first spread it all over the nori, except you want a small gap on the edges just so it's not overflowing when you eventually roll it. So as I'm sure you guys can imagine, making sushi rice itself is quite complicated and it takes quite some practice. It also depends on the chef for the exact ingredients they use within the sushi and how they get it to the right consistency. So we like to color our rice. I think it adds to the if you're taking photos of it as well as the taste. So this is some beetroot juice that we've put in there. So here we go. You just spread it all out a little bit. And then now we start with the ingredients. So we really focus on trying to use vegetables and more natural products just in a more interesting way. So we try to reduce the the processed fish and stuff. Well, vegan fish, but for example. So we then, this is one of our rolls at the moment. So it's also a sushi burrito. So it's a giant sushi roll. So we put some mushroom paste on it, some tempeh, which is kind of in a kind of sticky sauce, then some cabbage. So the trick is to fill it up as much as you can with lots of different ingredients with different textures and different tastes. I would say that's quite an important factor in terms of if you're, oh, sorry, I was trying to wave at someone in this moment. Then some avocado, we have to do avocado. There we go. So I think a very a misconception about vegan sushi is often that people focus on few ingredients and very basic ingredients, but we try to really fill it with lots of different ingredients and different tastes and textures and different colors. See, and there we go. Then we start to roll, and you want to tuck everything in and roll. Then you square it off a little bit, make sure everything's inside, and roll one last time. And that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. kind of short and to the point, a little bit different, I think, to everything else that's been going on today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations. Ira and the KET team at the RAI, the sushi's on your way to you right now. It just left. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon.
I can't wait for the sushi, Claudia. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I thought it was also fun for you to see Isabella again. And
Definitely, of course, always a pleasure.
And I am so sure that now Shannon is going to come over very soon, and let's have dinner. But here in Rai, exactly as you said, we can't wait for the sushi to arrive. And thank you so much for taking care of us again. Like last year, you're now taking care of it again. So thank you. Bye-bye,
Wonderful.
Claudia.
Thanks. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Claudia.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Rodriguez, the founder and CEO of Mycocycle, and I'm here to talk to you about the future is fungi. We live in a material world. Limited resources and a growing population require new ways of thinking, new ways of resources. We're building cities the size of New York and Paris every week for the next 40 years. So we're using more products that are carbon heavy and made from oil and petrochemical derivatives, and we're disposing more of those into waste streams that are sitting for 400 years and are creating issues for human and environmental health. You see, materials, well, 11% of the embodied carbon associated with them contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. That's a huge number when you think about the amount of construction that we'll be taking on. And in terms of waste, 16% of all anthropogenic methane contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. That's also a big number. And methane is 30 times more harmful to our environment coming from landfills than CO2 emissions. So allowing the waste to just sit there and do nothing and create no value creates no value for us as inhabitants of this earth. Why don't we look out the window? Let's look to nature for our inspiration, and let's drive true innovation in both of these fields. We know that biomimicry can inspire energy, transportation, communications, agriculture, but it can also inspire architecture and new materials. Let's take this. The structure is a thin film structure made from sugarcane ethanol. The films contain more than 80% renewable plant-based raw material and are recyclable within some of the same streams as fossil-based polyethylene. If we can replace those heavy petrochemical materials that are made in plastics with sugarcane ethanol, why not? And dandelions, we don't like them in our yards, but maybe we like them on our streets. Initial tests have determined that the roots of the Russian dandelion can be a raw material source for natural rubber. This is great news since SBR rubber is a huge contributor to landfills. It's one of the most highly landfilled materials in the world. So if we could figure out a way to get greener and cleaner on that, that would be a benefit to us all. And don't cry over spilt milk. This fashion designer created clothing made of milk that's no longer suitable for consumption. The fibers are based on the milk protein, and this biofiber is gentle to the skin, completely compostable, and theoretical to even be eaten with your morning cereal. Now that we know that nature can inspire innovation, can it inspire resource efficiency? Can it start to process toxins out of waste and create more reusable materials? If we only reuse less than 9 or 10% of the materials we landfill, can we start to change that number so we're only sending 9 to 10% to landfill? And we know fungi can clean this. They're the great cleaners of the earth. They clean up the carbon-heavy forests, the great decomposers. And so scientists have already taken, mycologists have already taken these applications from nature and applied them to this. Clean up oil spills and contaminated waterways and soils. So couldn't we conceivably clean this? Couldn't we use the same applications and techniques used in microremediation through fungi and start applying them to waste streams that are heavy in the same carbons that are out in the forest, and take it from there one more step to create new materials? Can mycelium take trash and make a valuable resource? We think it can. We think the future is fungi. Not only can we start to harness and apply the microremediation techniques in industrialized applications, but we can take that underused resource of trash and create value streams out of it. And we already know people all around the world are being inspired by mycelium-based materials. There are new construction materials out in the market. Mycelium is a great insulation material. It's lightweight and it's got a great R value per inch. And so why not put it back into using materials from where it came from? New packaging. We're replacing plastics out of packaging. In fact, IKEA has committed to using 100% mushroom-based packaging because they know it's biodegradable and it's less harmful on our environment. What about our toys and our recreational goods? I don't know about your kids, but my kids are interested in something for like 2 hot seconds and then it's tossed aside. And from there, it might get reused through Goodwill or some other agency, but after that, does it go to landfill and it sit? Or could we have these made out of mushrooms? I want this drone mushroom. I think it's really cool. And if it gets lost in the woods, hopefully it'll do less harm than something that's made out of a bunch of durable plastics. New furnishings. Because mycelium can be molded and formed and easily manipulated, it makes perfect sense to really create decorative elements for our buildings. And I think mycelium will be the changing face of the design industry. We're seeing all types of textiles, materials, and non-animal leather goods come out on the market. They're starting to be more mainstream every day. And in fact, Stella McCarthy has started to use mushroom-based materials in her designs. So can we start to go back to those building, those 40 years of every week New York and Paris developments? That's a lot of carbon being emitted into the world. Could we start to design buildings of the future and inspire architecture through nature to use mycelium to actually grow our buildings? This is called mycotexture, and the answer is yes. We're seeing this being played out all around the world, where architects and firms are visioning the future of buildings by using nature-based design. My question is, could we start to use the materials from the buildings that we're tearing down, process them and grow them out into new buildings? Why not? Why not use the resources that we already have? And why not start to emulate some of these buildings that are already been built? This is a demonstration for MoMA. And these are myco bricks that were formed, they were grown out and built into the structure. And it's pretty phenomenal to see. And this has been a design inspiration for architecture firms around the world. And we hope that as we start to think about the adaptive reuse of materials, we could think about what mycelium and fungi can do for us in growing out our materials and buildings of the future. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's what Peter Drucker said, but I also think that's what Mother Nature had in mind too. She shows us every day in many ways how we can develop new innovations based on the technologies that she's already provided for us. So all we have to do is look to nature for our inspiration and follow its pathway. And let's see more materials of the future and more industrial processes of the future based in nature. I'm Joanne Rodriguez. I'm the founder of Mycocycle, and I want to thank Kind Earth Tech for allowing me to speak at their conference, and I hope that all of you enjoy the rest of this conference. They have a great lineup.
All of our asphalt waste goes to the dump. It takes time and money to haul it there, and it isn't sustainable. We want to reduce our footprint and develop an opportunity to do something different with our waste.
Mycocycle exists to transform trash to treasure. We're using the power of mushrooms to clean up the messes that we've made. There are so many materials that we can address through microremediation that are hitting landfill currently. We see the opportunity to create a value stream and then re-enter it into manufacturing to make a usable byproduct.
One of the most important roles that fungi fulfill in the environment is as decomposers. They're really nature's greatest chemists on so many fronts, and especially in the way that they're able to uniquely break down some of the most complex chemicals of the natural world, as well as some of the most complex toxins that humans have invented.
Not everybody can have an effect on all parts of their own supply chain. So it's really important to have businesses like Mycocycle that are taking a look at these problems that in a way are being created by these other industries and finding ways to help those industries out.
If Mycocycle is successful, we probably shouldn't see a single second of it. Like the idea that mycelium recycles materials for us should just happen in the background while we go along our daily lives. And that's kind of the key to sustainable efforts and solving a global warming crisis, is making it easy for people to understand how to contribute.
That was so cute. So next we will hear from Miss Sujala Balaji, and please correct me if I am saying your name wrong. I'm sure I am. But she is the founder of Rain-Fed Foods, which is not just any ordinary non-dairy milk. And she's going to be speaking to us about how alt proteins are at the intersection of biodiversity and regenerative ag, which is just so vital in thinking about the future of protein, right? We want to do this in a sustainable way. So, team, is Sujala ready yet, or should I just keep chatting here? No? Okay, it seems like she might not be here yet. So y'all get a few more lovely minutes of me.
No.
No?
Well, a few lovely minutes of us. No,
Yay.
I just wanted to explain. Liz was supposed to do a 10-minute talk. Claudia did much shorter, but Liz is at the moment sick, so she couldn't make it. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule right now. So if you have any thoughts that you have to share with me, we can do that right now, or even get Isabella here, because I wanted to applaud her on doing a really good job with her TKS group.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. Because I told some people here, Isabella, I told people here, like, do you know these kids are only 16, 17, 18, something like that? And really? They're, oh, really? So you have surprised them again, Isabella. But
Thank
also
you.
the topics were so interesting, like feeding the rainforest with with the desert. I had never ever heard of that.
Me
So
neither.
so really, Isabella, thank you so much for bringing such amazing topics to the table. And also you, Shannon, it's so nice to hear you read from your own book. We've had it from some people already, and we came up with the idea to have a book club within KET right now, to start finding all these amazing books, and then even in the future make sure that those books get proper translations. Because there is a real difference in reading a book that is meant to inspire you in your own language, or reading it in a different language. So, for instance, at first I read Paul Shapiro's book in English, and then there was a Dutch translation, thanks to Gaia, and somehow that did give me a new experience, not a different experience, but there was something new about that.
It's different, as they say.
Yeah. And we are also starting to see whether we can find children's books. For instance, a good friend of mine, and she was one of the people that also started the In Vitro Meat Foundation, is Karen van Holst-Pellekaan. And she made a beautiful book about saving a little pig from the slaughterhouse, and all these adventures of a little kid together with that pig. And that's only in Dutch. So I think it's worth the trouble to see whether we can find books from all over the place and see if we can get translations going. And I even found some Russian children's books on this topic that badly need a translation. So if we in our network know people that are willing to help out with translations, or maybe with publishers, and that we can make sure that also all parents that want to raise their kids totally cruelty-free have enough books to read from, and also that we don't tell them the fairy tales that are not true. Right now, the chickens and the pigs in the farm that are playing with each other and living there forever, ever, happy ever after. Not the case.
I know. Yeah, I hope by the time I have kids, there will be just countless children's
I have good news. I have very good news. You can get rid of me now because Sujala is in, and please give her a warm welcome. Thank you very much for being here, Sujala.
Hey, everyone. My name is Sujala. I am the founder of Rain-Fed Foods, which you'll know more about in a few minutes. I'm also a food scientist and an engineer with over 15 years of experience working in the food and dairy industry, with our research and development, commercializing products, scaling up operations, and building supply chains for large-scale manufacturing. As much as the alternative protein conversation these days revolves around creating meat and dairy alternatives, we don't really talk enough about biodiversity and regenerative agriculture as part of that conversation. And that's what I hope to shed some light on today. So I'm going to share my screen now. Alternative proteins at the intersection of biodiversity and regenerative agriculture. The big question that's on our minds currently is how do we feed the world sustainably by 2050 using less resources like land and water while producing more food to feed the growing population? So We have come up with alternative ways to produce our proteins, and the race is on now more than ever. Based on the increasing number of product launches in both meat and dairy alternatives, whether it's milk, cheese, or burgers, and using different technologies like cell-based or fermentation, or using plant-based ingredients, there is a lot more companies, whether it's a startup or large corporations, everyone has their eyes turned on alternative proteins, which is a good thing. But one of the main problems is the big three, meaning a lot of the plants that we consume, more than 60% of the calories we currently consume, that comes from these three plants: soy, wheat, and corn, which has led to industrial agriculture and monocropping, which is destructive to soil health. Obviously, pea proteins have been a major focus recently in creating the alternatives. But I just put some humor in there just to break the seriousness of this conversation. Peas are really sustainable to grow, which is great. It's opening up the possibilities of products that can be created in the sector. Yet, what we're currently not talking about is issues like biodiversity, or adopting more regenerative agricultural practices, practices that are better for soil health and better for the environment, and using climate resilient crops, crops that do not demand a lot of resources from the soil, or crops that can withstand drought-like conditions, and crops that can grow with less water. So these are some of the underexplored or lesser talked about conversational topics that we need to be focusing on while we're building a sustainable food future. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, World Wildlife Fund has put out a report about a couple of years ago, highlighting the top 50 future foods based on sustainability, based on nutrition available in those crops, based on flavor. While we're talking about what not to eat, Future 50 Foods highlights what are the foods that we can actually include in the diets to make a positive change. Diversified diets not only improve human health, but also benefit the environment through diversified production systems that encourages wildlife and more sustainable use of resources, says Peter, who is a research advisor at Crops for the Future, which is an organization in Asia Pacific that that's working in collaboration in presenting this report. And what is included in the top 50 future foods? There is many different varieties of food groups, whether it's cereals and grains, whether it's nuts. There is even fruits and vegetables like okra and kale. And there is lesser known peas and legumes like bambara nuts and millets. So there is a large variety of top 50 foods that we all can not only incorporate more in our diets, but create products using these ingredients for better nutrition, flavor, and sustainability. And one such Future 50 food is millets. I call them miraculous because I grew up in India eating a lot of millets. Millets are naturally gluten-free, low glycemic, so it does not spike anyone's blood sugar as a carbohydrate. It's great for soil health because it's good at fixing nitrogen in the soil. And it is a climate resilient crop. And it grows naturally, organically, without the need for inputs like pesticides or fertilizers. So which is why I call them miraculous millets. And there is an international campaign called Smart Food run by an international crop research institute that promotes millets and legumes as smart food because they are not only good for the consumers, but good for the farmers and good for the planet as well. As you can see, these are different varieties of millets. In North America, I have realized that when I talk about millets, people assume that it's just one grain or just one crop. As you can tell, these are just a few of the many different varieties of millets that are grown, that are available for consumption, that provide a unique but diverse set of micro and macronutrients. And at Rainfed Foods, we are redefining the future of dairy by creating millet-based dairy alternatives and functional beverages. Starting with a plant-based milk, which tastes like milk and made with smart food crops. It's a complete source of protein and minerals because a lot of the dairy alternatives currently in the market do not meet the nutritional profile. And the product is also free from top 8 allergens with no added sugars or artificial ingredients and a cleaner label. Our mission at Rainfed is not just to create a great product that's good for consumers and the planet, but we also have a social. We also want to be a socially responsible business through our sourcing practices, which is why we work directly with smallholder farmers in India in sourcing our millets that are grown naturally, organically, and we also compensate them more than the fair value they would get from trading internally, because best trading practices is not something that they get to experience. So we want to help them empower themselves through this mission. Last but not least, there is a French gastronomist, Jean Anthelme, who said, "The discovery of a new dish does more for the happiness of the human race than the discovery of a star." I'm sure we all here can agree with that. So let's explore these lesser known grains that we used to grow hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago, bring them back into our diets, and let's create a more healthier, more inclusive, more regenerative, more sustainable future of food, and let's be the change. Thank you. I am open for a breakout session right after this talk if anyone wants to explore more, but you could also connect with me through LinkedIn or my email if you want to know more about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sujala. That was wonderful. Wholeheartedly agree.
Hello, everyone. Just give me a sign if you can hear me or see me. You're an entrepreneur, advisor, and impact investor passionate about making a positive impact. That's great to hear. I'm an entrepreneur passionate about making a positive impact as well. I just delivered a presentation on how we can center conversation around biodiversity and regenerative agriculture while promoting alternative proteins as the food of the future. So that is an area that I am very passionate about. Growing up in India, I grew up really close to food being grown and cooking food from scratch. And my grandparents had farms, and my relatives had farms as well, where I have watched food or plants and crops being grown. So it gave me a sense of appreciation before even I realized what that felt like. And it was only after I moved to North America, I started to realize how isolated we are from the food systems, and there is not much awareness about agriculture or where our food comes from. And being in the food industry, I felt like there was responsibility in creating foods that are better for consumers and better for the planet. And once I started to understand the impact of meat and dairy on our natural resources and ecosystem, I couldn't help but pivot my career from working for a dairy company to creating my own startup to make a positive change and impact. So that was that's what my presentation was about. Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to connect later if you do want to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm not hard to find. How do I view proteins? Proteins are an integral part of the diet. Whenever we talk about proteins, I always talk about how there is like a completely different view of the protein conversation between the East and the West. In North America, at least, I feel like we overconsume protein, and obesity and lack of good health is one of the bigger topics that currently exists systemically that needs to be addressed. But when we're talking about some of the less developed countries, on the other hand, they do not consume enough protein, and malnutrition is a source for poor health in many parts of the world. So whenever we talk about proteins, we need to understand the differentiation between different geographies and approach it with a different mindset than we would instead of just generalizing it and painting a global picture. Out of curiosity, Victoria, where are you based? Where are you from? Okay, you did the Cornell Nutrition course from Amsterdam. Okay, Netherlands. Okay, Netherlands is currently the leader in the alternative protein space of all countries in the world. I think there was an article that came out last week that was highlighting how there is a really good collaboration of different stakeholders moving the alternative protein needle forward in Netherlands that we could all learn from. There is governments, there is academia, there is industry, there is startups, all collaborating like a helix model. While they talked about it in the article, they compared the collaboration to a helix model where all of the stakeholders work together in pushing the alternative protein movement. Ojas just entered the session. Hi, Ojas. Is this something you could use in your business? Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think collaboration is key. Collaboration is the way forward. I live in Toronto, by the way. I forgot to mention during the introduction. Thank you, Ojas. I'm glad. I'm curious about who you are. So if you don't mind introducing yourself briefly, that would be great. Paul is joining. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Hey, where are you joining from?
For some reason, my camera doesn't want to work, but I'll figure that out. I'm calling in from Dublin.
Dublin, amazing.
Dublin.
Nice to meet you.
Dublin, Ireland. And I have a company called This Is Seaweed, and we're extracting proteins and alginates from seaweed, ideally for the plant-based market. So not the same field that you're in, but ultimately it is, of course.
Yeah, no problem. It is. So are they used in certain applications currently, or are you more focused on growing seaweed and extracting proteins as an ingredient?
Our focus for the next 2 years is to improve the extraction process. And so seaweeds are much tougher cell wall and matrix than land-based plants. And so the extraction process needs to be a little bit rougher, but you still need to be gentle so that you keep all the nutraceuticals intact. So it's different, but it's very exciting. And so and currently extraction processes use coal, or they use high temperature, they use pollutants, and so we're working on a process that is green and sustainable. So
okay, interesting, very interesting. So how did you think of this idea or concept, and what made you work on seaweeds?
I'm a marine biologist, and in fact, I about 5 years ago, I left the Netherlands. I was working in the Marine Institute of the Netherlands. And so for the last 5 years, I've been selling seaweed both to B2C and B2B. The B2B was more profitable, and lots of the sales went to the Netherlands and still are. And then just in reference to an article that you mentioned, but either was or maybe a different one, but it was the Silicon Valley of food, the Netherlands. Recognized that. So lots of investment going in, and of course investment leads to innovation, and fortunately you mentioned it, collaboration, very important. And then yes, when you start dealing with food ingredients companies, and the bigger they get, then actually the tougher the requirements are for specifications and various different things. And so we realized by talking with them for the last 3 years or so that actually it wasn't whole seaweed that they were looking for, but actually extracts of seaweeds, where some want a certain functionality and others want that functionality removed. And so then sustainability has always been key to the company and to my lifestyle. So to work on a sustainable extraction process was it was on the path. I just needed to figure it out. And so we secured some funding from Science Foundation Ireland to work on a project, and I also took on a small bit of money investment-wise and to help with the project. So we haven't taken on VC investment yet, but that will come probably in the next 8 to 12 months. So that's just where we are with the company. And have you taken on VC investment?
I have not. I am currently exploring that as an option, and it's interesting when you mentioned that the government funding. There is some government funding available in Ireland. That's something that I have been, I guess, voicing whenever I talk to people in Canada in the innovation or R&D space. I'm based in Toronto. In Canada, the support for startups, especially pre-revenue startups, early stage startups, is like really, really, really low. I mean, there is great support in terms of providing resources, like whether it's delivering workshops or incubators and accelerators. There's endless number of them. So there is support in that way. But in terms of providing actual capital for a company to do some R&D or get some market validation or some financial support to get them through early traction is really missing. And I was even sharing this with an ingredient supplier in Canada, how once we have the potential, like even though our climate conditions are not great to grow crops all year round, we still grow a lot of crops here. And most of the Rocket is actually building their world's largest pea protein facility in Canada. So there is that much potential to grow and process crops and plants that benefit the planet and companies in the alternative protein sector. But in terms of funding innovation, it's missing, unfortunately. So that's been a little bit of my pet peeve. So whatever R&D that I have been doing so far in this project has all been self-funded. We were also just recently accepted into Brink's Accelerator program. So that is that's also been helpful. We just started 2 weeks ago. It comes with a little bit of money, so we want to see how far we could get with that before we raise VC funding.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's great to get accepted onto that because there's a criteria to get onto it, and obviously you've passed that. I just recently did a workshop with a VC outfit called Hatch, and they invest in aquaculture companies. And so it's good to be aligned like that. I'm not familiar with Brink actually, but I'll check it out. But their contacts, and so the contacts that Hatch introduced me to, were outstanding, and you would be 10 or more years in business before you would meet these people, and so I hope at least that Brink introduces you to a bunch of super investors or advisors, you know.
Yes, we hope so too. So far, even though we're only 2 weeks into the program, we have already had like really good first few days of that professional relationship. They're very responsive. Their curriculum is very customized depending on what startup it is and what stage the startup is in. So they provide tailored access to mentorship and resources and networks. So I'm really looking forward. If you are planning on applying for accelerators, I definitely give Brink a thumbs up.
Good. Very good.
I see there was a question from Ojas around, so he's spent 25 years of his life in India, but no idea what millets are. I am not surprised because millets used to be the staple in India until Green Revolution happened in the late 70s and early 80s, or in the 70s and 80s. So what that did is that allowed access for large companies like Monsanto to come into India and promote their products like pesticides and fertilizers to boost productivity and yields. So farmer and the government started supporting that as well in their public distribution system model. So a lot of the farmers found greater incentives for growing rice and wheat instead of millets. So that's how eventually the millet cultivation dropped and rice and wheat kind of went up. And now the increase in the amount of diabetes in India is staggering. My own parents who still live in India are both diabetic. And I'm not sure if I can ward that off using my healthy diet, but if it's not genetical. So as my mom Oja says, yes, most of the people that we're related to in India are diabetic. So it's unfortunate. That's because we grew up eating a lot of rice and wheat. Millets, on the other hand, are low glycemic crops. It does not elevate your blood sugar. It is clinically proven to reduce diabetes if we consume it regularly. So that is why it is a great grain to just include in our regular diets. And that's how I actually started my entrepreneurial journey. I created a first company called Kosha Foods, K-O-S-H-A, not kosher, where I wanted to promote millets as an ancient grain to be included in our diets on a regular basis, because it is super nutritious. And like I mentioned, there are so many different varieties, so you don't have to feel like you're eating the same grain every day. Or there is a funny saying, no one goes to their deathbed wishing they ate more quinoa, right? So the alternative grains, or the ancient grains that are good for you and that are healthy for you, are very limited, particularly in North America, due to mass production of wheat, soy, and corn, which again is encouraged by government policies and subsidies going towards those crops from the government. Yes, definitely we need to get rid of the carb stigma. Unfortunately, what's happening with the whole keto movement is really sad, because what they're promoting is more consumption of almonds. And all the keto recipes, you would see that there is almond flour. Pretty much 90% of them is based on almond flour. Whereas almonds are very unsustainable to grow at the rate we are starting to consume it. There is already declining bee population due to practices that are involved in growing more almonds in California. And California is experiencing the worst drought ever because that's where most of the almonds are grown in the US. So, and in terms of the alternative milk space too, more than 60% of the non-dairy milks currently being consumed are almond milk. So that's why I focused my talk on improving biodiversity and improving our agricultural practices that could sustain us longer term. While we make the switch, we have to do it consciously. We have to make sure that we factor in everything, not just focused on the proteins. And there is a question about brown millet. Brown millet is very healthy. Yes, Victoria, you're right. It's also called finger millet. And Ojas, there is lots of different names for those millets. So I'm pretty sure you have eaten it in one form or another. In certain parts of India, it's called bajra. I think sorghum is called blanking out, because we speak so many different languages in India. Depending on what region it is, there is different regional names. So if you do want to look that up, there is different names that you might be familiar with or you might have eaten.
Please excuse me, Sujala, I'm going to leave and go back to the main room, but it's a pleasure to meet you. And
you too. Thanks for
best of luck on the journey. I'll
yes,
keep in touch.
good luck. Thank you. Yes, also love chickpeas as a source. So versatile. It is. Although there is an obsession over hummus in North America recently, or in the last few years, which is not bad. So it's almost like once we find something that's exciting and that's new to us, we obsess over it and we overconsume it. And there are so many of those unexplored crops which are all delicious and nutritious, and we could definitely include more of those in our diets. Even grains like fonio and teff and buckwheat are some examples.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. So I'm an undergraduate student here in Mumbai.
Okay.
So just while surfing through LinkedIn, I found out about this KET site, and one thing led to the other, and now I'm here now.
Amazing. That's exciting. Well, glad you joined. Did you attend any of the sessions?
Yes, I've attended most of the sessions.
Okay, amazing. Are you interested in food science, or are you doing a food science program, or interested in the alternative proteins, or?
I'm somewhat interested in the alternative proteins, and I'm also doing my bachelor's here in food engineering and technology.
Okay.
Mumbai.
I know GFI India is really promoting alternative proteins in India, and they're doing an incredible job in pushing for change in the alternative movement in India. There has recently been a competition that was announced too, I think, a Smart Protein Challenge, I guess, right?
Yes. Okay.
Do you have any specific questions?
No, exactly. I couldn't find the time to attend your session because I was busy with something else.
No worries. It is recorded. You might want to skip through like the first 2 minutes, because I had 2 of my tabs open and we had an audio glitch because of that. But I think the rest went well. feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need to ask any questions or if there is anything that I can help with.
Yep, fine. Like I may have some questions like after I complete my bachelor's course, like I'm thinking of going to America for my master's.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it would be helpful if I could reach out and speak to you.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, do reach out. I will
fine,
do my
like-
best. Well, we'll connect one-on-one if needed, but nice meeting you all and nice talking to you.
Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful morning. US East. I think we're closing out US East and heading to US West. I'll be staying on because I'm over here, but I think our lovely Isabella will be heading out.
Thanks so much for having me today. I had such an awesome time. So many interesting talks. Really excited. So I'll let Olivia come on here. Goodbye to US East, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the agenda for the day. It's looking really good. So I'm going to leave now. Bye.
Bye.